Chapter 1092. Ping in Residence, Kyoto, China. Charlotte put down the satellite phone and picked up Long Bing by the waist. He laughed and said, "She's dead. She's dead." Long Bing was shocked by his childish behavior. She said nervously, "Who's dead? Put me down. I can't stand your tossing and turning. Be careful of the baby." Only then did Charlotte realize that he was holding a pregnant woman who was about to give birth, not the lively Chief Long of 101 innings. He hurriedly put Long Bing down and said, "It's my Hattori." Chi-Jun just called back. He said that he had killed my Hattori. "Ah, he killed my Hattori?" Long Bing looked surprised. Charlotte said with a smile, "I'm also surprised. In fact, I didn't think it would be so easy. But Chi-Jun is the strongest person in the Zodiac team. He said that he killed my Hattori, so my Hattori must be dead. In addition, Chi-Jun also said that he killed Hattori Masao. This must be true. That's great." Long Bing was also happy. "Chi-Jun killed my Hattori and Hattori Masao. You don't have to go there in person. It's better if you don't go to such a dangerous place." Xiaolei hugged her in his arms and kissed her. Then he said very gently, "This is good. I don't have to go anywhere. I will accompany you to have a child. I want to see my child born with my own eyes." Long Bing was slightly stunned. "You want to see the child born with your own eyes? Are you serious?" Charlotte looked serious. "Yes, of course I'm serious. I want to see my child come into this world with my own eyes." Long Bing rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "I don't care about them, but I don't want you to watch me give birth." Charlotte asked curiously, "Why don't you let me watch? What's there to see? Blood, umbilical cord, and so on. It will affect your sexual interest towards me in the future," Long Bing said with a serious look. Charlotte didn't feel good. Long Bing kissed him on the cheek. "I don't care. I want you to remember that everything about me is beautiful and clean. I don't want you to see the place where I gave birth. Promise me, okay?" Charlotte smiled bitterly. All right, I promise you." Liang Xiao walked in and looked at Charlotte and Long Bing, who were hugging each other. She smiled and said, "What are you guys talking about?" They even hugged each other. "About giving birth," Long Bing said. "I said I wouldn't let him watch when I'm giving birth. I won't let him see it either," Liang Xiao said. Charlotte shrugged. He didn't need to ask to know that Liang Xiao didn't want him to see it for the same reason as Long Bing. It seemed that if he wanted to see his child born, he had to go to his childhood sweetheart, Jiang Rui. She wouldn't mind it very much. If he coaxed her, he could get permission. Liang Xiao said again, "Honey, let's talk about giving birth later. There are guests at home." "It's so late." "Who's here?" Charlotte let go of Long Bing. Liang Xiao said, "It's your old lover. She's waiting for you in the living room." Hearing the word old lover, Charlotte suddenly thought of two women. One was Tang Yuyin, and the other was Shinta Tianyin. His expression became a little awkward. "Don't guess whether it's Tang Yuyin or Shinta Tianyin. Let me tell you, it's Tang Yuyin. Go quickly. Don't let her wait too long," Liang Xiao said with a smile. Charlotte walked up and slapped Liang Xiao's buttocks. "What old lover? If I hear you say that again, I'll beat your buttocks until they're swollen." He didn't actually use much strength, but Liang Xiao screamed exaggeratedly, "Ouch, it hurts. You're so cruel. My buttocks have been split into two pieces." "Your buttocks are originally two pieces, okay?" Charlotte glared at her hypocritically, but he dodged before her fist hit him. When he came to the living room, Charlotte saw Tang Yin sitting on the sofa, accompanied by Jiang Rui and Fan Fan. There were a lot of gifts on the coffee table in front of the three women. It was a lot of snacks, nuts, chocolates, and so on. In addition to delicious snacks, there were also 4 cans of milk powder from New Zealand. Charlotte had a strange feeling in his heart. It was okay for Tang Yuyin to come, but she actually gave gift to his 4 wives and children. Was she deliberately trying to please his wives? Thinking of the promise he made to Tang Yuyin in 2 years, he had a slight headache. Thinking of such things in his heart, Charlotte's face was full of smiles. "It turns out that Yuyin is here. Why are you so polite and bought so many gifts?" Tang Yuyin said with a smile, "You're going to be a father soon. I have to express my gratitude. I'm embarrassed to come empty-handed." Fan Fan said, "Honey, you guys talk. I'm going back to the room to rest." Jiang Rui also got up and said, "I'm going to bed too." Charlotte said, "Go ahead. You guys go to bed early." The two pregnant women left the living room and walked along the corridor for a while, but then they stopped and then tiptoed to the living room. Before the two pregnant women reached the door of the living room, the two pregnant women, Liang Xiao and Long Bing, came over again. The four pregnant women understood each other and cooperated tacitly. No one said a word. They stood next to the wall by the door and eavesdropped on the conversation in the living room. Yin, you didn't come so late to give me a gift, did you? If you have something to say, just say it. Charlotte went straight to the point. Tang Yin said, "We just got the news that General Hattori Misao of the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force was attacked by gunmen in Las Vegas and died." Charlotte's face was calm, but he was still a little surprised. "The news from 101 innings is really fast," Tang Yin said again. "I really came to see you and my sisters-in-law, but I got a call on the way. Otherwise, I would have come empty-handed." Charlotte felt a little strange. Qianjun had just called him, but Tang Yin was already here and brought a lot of gifts. So that was what happened. Charlotte's face was still calm. "Hattori Misao is dead? That's really unexpected news." He smiled, "But I'm very happy to hear it. Not only Hattori Misao, but my Hattori is also dead," Tang Yin said. "Ah, my Hattori is also dead? That's great." Xiaolei laughed. "That venomous woman is a scourge as long as she's alive. The assassins who tried to assassinate Frosty and the others were from the Hattori family. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to see them again." Tang Yin stared at Charlotte. "Do you know who killed Hattori Misao and my Hattori?" Charlotte shook his head. "I don't know about that. People like my Hattori and Hattori Misao must have a lot of enemies." Tang Yin rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "Keep pretending. I know it's you." Charlotte smiled and said, "Do you think I have a doppelganger skill? If you don't do it yourself, someone will do it for you, right? Forget it." Tang Yin sighed softly. "I can understand you even if you don't tell me. But I want to tell you that even I can guess it's you. I believe many people can guess it's you. You'd better go out less during this time and try not to show up in public." Charlotte didn't say anything. He just nodded gently. This nodding action was a tacit admission that he had sent people to kill my Hattori and Hattori Misao. Tang Yin said, "You killed Hattori Misao and my Hattori, which was actually a very reckless act. We just won a great victory in the South China Sea, and your achievements are enough to be recorded in history. But in the blink of an eye, you made a big mess. Hattori Misao was a general of the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force. How could you kill him? Have you ever thought about what would happen if it started a war?" Charlotte said, "The Hattori family wants my wife's life and wants me to die without descendants. Do you think I'll be polite to them? If they can send assassins to assassinate me once, then they can send assassins to assassinate me a second time and a third time. I don't want my women and children to live in fear." Such words fell into the ears of the four pregnant women outside the door. It tasted sweeter than honey. Charlotte had indeed made great achievements in the Southern Sea War. His name and deeds were enough to be recorded in history. But assassinating Hattori Misao and my Hattori was not in line with the national interest. On the contrary, it would bring trouble to the country's diplomacy. Although the merits were greater than the demerits were certainly not good. The Southern Sea War was for the country, but killing Hattori Misao and my Hattori was for personal reasons. He didn't have much time left. He wanted to kill all the people who could threaten his women and children. So, even if he had to choose again, he would still send Qianjun to kill my Hattori and Hattori Misao. "Come with me," Tang Yin suddenly said. Charlotte was stunned. "Where to?" 101 innings, Tang Yin said. Charlotte frowned. "What do you mean? Even if you want to punish him, you should at least have evidence, right?" Outside the door, the four pregnant women suddenly became anxious and appeared from behind the wall. Fan Fan was the first to speak. "Tang Yin, what do you mean? My husband has just made such a great contribution in the Southern Sea War. Who would dare to arrest him?" Tang Yin stood up and looked very careful. "Sister Fan Fan, don't misunderstand. Who would dare to arrest Charlotte now? He is our country's treasure. I'm not asking him to go to 101 innings to arrest him, nor to assist in the investigation. It's just 2 Japanese dead. Who cares? Although Hattori Masao and my Hattori are important, as long as they can't produce evidence, we can just deny it. There won't be much trouble. Then why are you taking him to 101 innings? Liang Xiao probed. She was obviously thinking about something else. Tang Yuyin smiled bitterly. I know you are very worried about Charlotte, and I don't want him to get into any trouble. Besides, this matter is really not troublesome. Someone wants to see Charlotte, and specially asked me to invite him over. Who? Longbing asked. Tang Yuyin said, I really don't know. I asked my godfather, and he just told me not to ask too much and to just carry out the order. He has already put on special alert. Longbing still wanted to ask, but Fan Fan took her hand and said, Don't ask. Let your husband go. Longbing seemed to have guessed something in her heart. She nodded and stopped asking. Tang Yuyin said with a smile, Don't worry. I will send Charlotte back intact. I promise not a single hair is missing. When she said, Not a single hair is missing, the 4 pregnant women all stared at her. Under what circumstances would a single hair be missing? This was something that filled people's imagination. Tang Yuyin suddenly realized that she had said something wrong, so she corrected herself. A single hair is missing. Charlotte said, You all go back to sleep. I will come back early. Liang Xiao moved closer to Charlotte and said in a low voice, You have to be careful. Don't be confused by the vixen, understand? Charlotte. Chapter 1093. The Mengsher SUV drove on the street. There was not a single car on the street. Charlotte glanced out the window and saw the snipers and observers on the buildings. At some intersections, he could see the police and soldiers who had blocked the intersections. From this lineup, Charlotte had already guessed who wanted to see him. There's no need to look. You already know who wants to see you. Tang Yin glanced sideways at Charlotte, who was sitting in the passenger seat with a smile on her lips. She thought of the promise Charlotte had given her. 2 years. 2 years, and she could be with him. Just thinking about it made her feel happy. Charlotte said, You actually know. Why didn't you say it? I have orders. I can't say it even if I know. You know the rules. Tang Yuyin said, It's okay. Charlotte had already seen the ugly office building at 101 floors. You know, after knowing what you did in the Southern Sea, I was so excited that I couldn't sleep all night. Tang Yuyin said. Xiaolei shifted his gaze to look at her and just smiled. You're the best man in the world. Tang Yuyin's voice was full of gentleness and desire. I wish it was 2 years later. Was she reminding him of that promise? The corners of Xiaolei's mouth couldn't help but reveal a bitter smile. 2 years later? He might not even be in this world anymore. He would either die at the hands of the black-robed man or enter the ancient alloy box world and never come back. Apart from these 2 outcomes, he couldn't think of a third one. The car entered 101 floors. A group of bodyguards in black suits had already been waiting in the parking lot. Some were armed with Gale assault rifles, while others were carrying locked chests. All of them were extremely cold. As soon as Charlotte got out of the car, a bodyguard in black clothes greeted him politely. Mr. Xia, please follow me. Okay. Charlotte followed him. Tang Yin wanted to follow, but was stopped by 2 bodyguards in black clothes. One of them said to her, Sorry, you can't go with them. Tang Yuyin stayed obediently. She watched as Charlotte entered the office building, and her eyes were a little dazed. Tang Buchuan walked over from the other side of the parking lot. He pulled Tang Yuyin to a secluded place and whispered, How are you and Charlotte? Tang Yuyin asked, What do you mean? I'm your brother. Don't try to lie to me. You look very happy these days. Are you with Charlotte again? Tang Buchuan said. Tang Yuyin said, Is it normal for me to be sad all day? All right, I'll tell you the truth. This is actually what Grandpa wanted to ask you, said Tang Buchuan. Hearing the word Grandpa, Tang Yuyin's good mood suddenly disappeared. Why didn't he ask me himself? If he asks you, you'll definitely be angry with him. He doesn't want to quarrel with you. He's so old. You should be considerate of him, said Tang Buchuan. Am I not considerate enough for him? What do I have to do to make him satisfied? Tang Yuyin's emotions were a little out of control. I had a chance to be with Charlotte at that time. During that time, Shenzhou Industry Group and Hamu Weapons Company were jointly suppressing Charlotte. Grandpa and Dad were worried about getting into trouble, so they forced me to give up. I gave up. Later, Charlotte survived and achieved great achievements. He even divorced Shinatianin. You tried your best to get me together with Charlotte. He also felt the same way. I wasn't by his side when he needed help the most. Why should he be with me when he was enjoying life? He is now married to Fan Fan, and he has 3 other women who are also pregnant with his children. You don't allow me to contact him, and you want me to go on blind dates with the children of those high-ranking officials and engage in political marriages. I am a woman, and I have the right to pursue my love. I also have the right to pursue my happiness there. After saying what she wanted to say in one breath, Tang Yin seemed to feel a little better. Tang Buochuan was silent for a moment before saying, Yu Yin, you must always remember that you are a woman of the Tang family. What did our Tang family rely on for hundreds of years? We rely on the dedication of every member of the Tang family. Stand firm. Forget it. I don't want to quarrel with you. Tang Yin said, We are not together. This is my answer. If you're not satisfied, you can ask Charlotte yourself. No, you are wrong, said Tang Buochuan. Tang Yin suddenly froze for a moment. What do you mean? Tang Buochuan said, After the battle in the Southern Sea, Charlotte's life has almost reached the peak. We estimate that his next step is to research and manufacture Rema Group's own fighter jets and bombers. At that time, his life will reach the peak. Isn't that obvious? There is nothing in this world that can't stop him. I believe in him. He will definitely succeed. When saying this, Tang Yin's eyes were full of reverence. Is that all you see? Tang Buochuan's mouth curled up into a sneer. Once Rema Group's fighter jets and bombers come out, our country's military technology and strength will definitely become the first in the world. But after that, Charlotte's greatest value will not be the weapons and equipment he has researched and produced, but himself. Tang Yin's expression suddenly changed. You mean the country will launch a plan to study him? Isn't that obvious? Tang Buochuan said, This kind of thing can't be justified in terms of affection, but it is inevitable. Charlotte is the only person in the world who has evolved beyond all human beings. He drove away the United States' 7th Fleet with his strength alone. His body has inestimable value. From a perspective of the future of the country and the nation, the national machine will inevitably take this step. What does this have to do with me? Tang Yin said, I don't want to hear it. Our Tang family wants a child with Charlotte's genes, Tang Buochuan said. You guys are really, Tang Yin wanted to say, you guys are really shameless, but she couldn't say it. Grandpa means that regardless of whether you are with him or not, our Tang family must have a child with Charlotte. It's best if this child is born by him and you, Tang Buochuan said. Ha ha! Tang Yin suddenly laughed. What are you laughing at? There was a trace of anger on Tang Buochuan's face. Don't forget how you became the director of 101 Innings. It was me who gave you that position. In the future, the Tang family will be under my control. You must listen to what I say. Brother, do you think I don't respect you? Tang Yin couldn't laugh anymore. Her face was full of sadness. I know your plan very well. You want me to seduce Charlotte, make him have sex with me, and make me pregnant with his child. But you won't be satisfied. After I get pregnant, your next step will be to let me enter his family and become a wife outside the law like Liang Xiao and Long Bing. Charlotte is a person who values friendship and righteousness. He is so smart, he will definitely know where his life will go and what kind of ending he will face. So he will definitely make a will for me and his child. If anything happens to him in the future, my child and I will get a share of Rema Group, and those shares will belong to the Tang family. This is your plan, isn't it? Tang Buochuan was silent. His silence at this time was actually a kind of tacit agreement. This plan is actually because Charlotte defeated the United States' 7th Fleet in the Southern Sea, right? Tang Yin asked. Think about it carefully. When you think about it, you have to remember that you are a woman of the Tang family. Tell me when you have thought about it. I will arrange it for you. Tang Buochuan left after saying this. Tang Yin stood there in a daze and didn't move for a long time. In a multi-purpose conference room in the office building of 101 floors, Charlotte shook hands with that person. He used both hands, and that person also used both hands. He had a smile on his face, and that person also had a smile on his face. It gave people the feeling that two like-minded people had become friends. Comrade Charlotte, you have done a very important thing for this country. You have relieved the pressure we have been under for decades, and you have also one precious time for our country to develop. I should have seen you when you came back, but because of work, I couldn't do it, so it was delayed until today. I am really sorry, that person said. Chief, you are too polite. I am already very happy that you are able to see me, Charlotte said, neither servile nor overbearing. You have made a great contribution. Tell me, what kind of reward do you want? Charlotte smiled. Chief, the country has given me enough support. The money I have earned can't be spent in a few lifetimes. I don't need any reward. Really, I don't need it. Our country is actually not rich. There are many people, and the burden is heavy. Take my reward to help those who need help. Many people's lives are not easy. He nodded. I am deeply gratified that you can think this way. Our country has people like you, so why should we worry about not being strong? It is my honor to be able to contribute to the country. Comrade Charlotte, don't be so polite. You have more money than you can spend, and you don't want to be an official. But if there is no reward, it will not be justifiable. You have done so much for this country and people, and we have to do something for you. Don't be embarrassed. If there is anything you need me to do for you, just tell me, he said. Charlotte thought for a moment and said tentatively, Chief, do you really want me to say it? He smiled and said, Look at you, I've already said it very clearly. Tell me, what can I do for you? Charlotte was silent for a moment before saying, Chief, can you cancel the research plan targeting me? He was slightly stunned, then said, I agree. You contain the treasure of human evolution, but if you are not willing, we can cancel the research plan targeting you. In the future, when you die of old age, you can donate your body for future generations to ponder. What do you think? Charlotte smiled. Yes, thank you, Chief. Even if he did not bring it up, when he really died of old age, Charlotte himself would write a will and donate his body to the country. But when such a promise came from his mouth, it was affection, and it was respect. Moreover, to resist the temptation of surpassing the entire human race, this was not an easy thing for individuals or countries. But, Comrade Charlotte, this is not a reward. What you said just now is settled. I promise you, from now on, there will not be any research plan targeting you until you die of old age. Now, think again, what can I do for you? He said with a smile. His words and expression were very kind. You really want to give me a reward? Tell me, there must be something I can do for you. Charlotte thought for a moment. Chief, other than Fan, I have 3 other women, and they're all going to have children. Can you give me a marriage certificate or something? I needed to have children. Just this. He smiled. You're good at everything, but your private life is a mess. Don't think that I don't know about those women of yours. I know everything. As a man, you are really charming. All right, I will help you solve this problem. Charlotte was overjoyed. Thank you, Chief. In China, a man could only marry 1 woman. But now, he had legally married 4 women. Such a reward was very special, but for a national hero like him, receiving such a special reward was actually worthy. You're the only one in the country to receive such treatment. Special, right? Special. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. I have troubled you, Chief. Then how are you going to repay me? Within 2 years, Rema Group will produce the world's most advanced fighter jets and strategic bombers for the country, Charlotte said. Okay, it's a deal. He stood up and shook hands with Charlotte. Chapter 1094. Hattori Masao was dead. The whole world was shocked, and all kinds of speculations and groundless reports appeared in the media of various countries. Some commentators even boldly hinted that this would be the trigger for World War III. He used the cause of World War I as an example. Archduke Ferdinand and his wife of the Austro-Hungarian Empire were assassinated in Sarajevo, and then World War I broke out. History was strikingly similar. Japan's ground self-defense force General Hattori Masao was assassinated in Las Vegas, and public opinion and analysis pointed the finger directly at China. The two countries originally had irresolvable historical conflicts, and if there was a little military friction at this time, it was very likely to trigger World War III. However, no matter how the media hyped up the situation, and no matter how the military commentators fanned the flames, the United States, Japan, and China all maintained an equal degree of restraint. None of them provoked the other at this time, and the risk of war was almost zero. With the development of human society today, war was actually no longer a means to solve problems. The threat of war and economic attacks had become the common means of confrontation between countries in the world today. In the past, the United States could use its fleet and advanced fighter jets to deter China, forcing China to make concessions it wanted, and it always got what it wanted. However, it was different now. Rima Group produced Jinka drones and Ghost drones for China. These two drones could bomb wherever they wanted, and the radar could not detect them at all. Especially the Ghost drone, it could even completely destroy the most advanced F-35 fighter jets of the United States. In this case, what else could the United States use to deter China? The methods that the United States had tried in the past were no longer effective now. The Rima Group made the United States deeply afraid, let alone Japan. The situation that Japan was facing now was that the Rima Group's Jinka drones and Ghost drones could take off from China at any time, fly over the Eastern Sea, and do aerial photography in Tokyo, Japan. Therefore, knowing that the other party could break through all of your defenses and give you a devastating blow at any time, what else could you do to this opponent? The death of Hattori Masao seemed to be a very serious matter, but a war did not break out. At most, the media in Japan, the United States, and China would have a war of words. Amidst the clamor, Charlotte ushered in the most important day of his life. Ouch! Fan Fan, who was taking a stroll in the courtyard, suddenly squatted on the ground while clutching her stomach. Cold sweat broke out on her forehead in the blink of an eye. She looked like she was in great pain. "What's wrong with you?" Charlotte quickly supported her and asked with concern, "Is your stomach uncomfortable?" I think I'm about to give birth. "The baby is kicking me. It hurts," Fan Fan said. She kept breathing with her mouth open. Charlotte quickly picked her up. "Don't be nervous. Relax. I'll send you to the hospital right away. I'm going to drive," Long Bing said, and then walked to the garage like a penguin. She actually wanted to run, but she couldn't move at all. "Why are you driving?" "Don't go, I'll go." Charlotte carried Fan Fan and overtook Long Bing in a few steps. I'll call the hospital immediately to get ready." Liang Xiao was also anxious. She took out her cell phone and made a call. After a few minutes of panic, a Night 15 was escorted by several military SUVs in the direction of Kyoto. The driver was not Charlotte, but Qin Xiang. "Ouch, ouch. The baby seems to be coming out. It hurts. It hurts so much. Why is it so painful to give birth?" "I don't want to give birth," Fan Fan shouted all the way, looking very painful. In fact, her pain was far from unbearable. It was only because her sensitive physique would magnify the pain several times that it was so severe. Charlotte was very clear about her situation. He hugged her and comforted her. "You just have to bear with it. It'll be here soon. The doctor is ready. They'll take care of you." The other 3 pregnant women also came to comfort her. "Don't be afraid. Your water hasn't broken yet. You won't give birth in the car," Jiang Rui said. "You're in so much pain because you're afraid of pain. Be brave, grit your teeth, and it'll be over." Long Bing said. "Yes, be brave. Don't be afraid," Liang Xiao said. Fan Fan was about to cry. "You guys make it sound nice. It's not like you're in pain. When you're about to give birth, you'll know how painful it is." Ouch! The 4 women in the car couldn't stop talking. "Sister-in-law Fan, I don't know how much I envy you." Qin Xiang, who was driving, also joined in the fun. "Giving birth is the happiest thing in a woman's life. You should treat this pain as a kind of happiness. You should think about happy things, and then you won't be in so much pain." "Happy my ass," Fan Fan said. "Try giving birth to another one if you can." Qin Xiang stuck out her tongue and continued to drive. However, at this moment, Liang Xiao suddenly clutched her stomach. "Oh no, I think I'm going to give birth too." Ouch. Charlotte's head hurt. It can't be such a coincidence. You're going to give birth to? Ouch, ouch, ouch. It hurts. He's moving. Cold sweat broke out on Liang Xiao's head in the blink of an eye. Her expression was also very painful and nervous. If it weren't for the cold sweat on her head and her expression, Charlotte would have thought that she was joking. However, judging from her current reaction, she was really going to give birth. Charlotte followed to comfort Liang Xiao. He was also secretly puzzled. What's going on? Fan Fan is the first woman to get pregnant. It's normal for her to be the most pregnant. But Liang Xiao only got pregnant after a while. Why is she giving birth with Fan Fan today? The four women's pregnancy times were different, but there wasn't much difference. The longest was about a month. It was the most normal situation for a woman to give birth after 10 months of pregnancy. This was the case for Fan Fan. Liang Xiao was pregnant for 9 months, which was actually quite normal, because there were actually many women who gave birth after 8 or 9 months of pregnancy. Therefore, he stopped thinking about it after thinking for a while. He felt that it was a coincidence. It was really a joyous occasion to welcome 2 children in one day. Xiao, bear with it. When we get to the hospital, I'll call Master and ask him to come over, said Charlotte. I don't want him. I want you, said Liang Xiao. Charlotte said, Okay. I'll stay by your side and never leave. Okay? Qin Xiang said with a smile. Lei, congratulations. Both sisters-in-law are going to give birth. This is really double happiness. I'll be the godmother of the children. Okay? Charlotte, ouch. Jiang Rui suddenly cried. My stomach hurts. The little guy is kicking me. Is the baby coming out? Ouch, ouch. Charlotte was a little confused. If Fan Fan and Liang Xiao were a coincidence, then with the addition of Jiang Rui, it was a coincidence on top of a coincidence. Wasn't it too much of a coincidence? Whether it was a coincidence on top of a coincidence or not, Charlotte comforted Jiang Rui. Don't be nervous and don't be afraid. We're going to the hospital soon. I'm not afraid. It hurts. Jiang Rui clenched Charlotte's arm so hard that her fingernails almost sank into his flesh. This reaction was definitely not a joke. She was really going to give birth. Ha! Qin Xiang couldn't help laughing. My 3 sisters-in-law, have you discussed it? Why do you insist on giving birth today? Discuss your head. Shut up. Ouch, ouch. Liang Xiao wanted to scold him, but she cried out in pain before she could finish speaking. Ha! Ouch. Qin Xiang, who was laughing, suddenly covered his head. It was Long Bing who hit him. After hitting him, Long Bing suddenly froze and then held her stomach. Her expression looked very strange. It was the kind of expression one would have when they really wanted to go to the toilet. Charlotte looked at her. He looked very nervous. Bing, it can't be, right? Long Bing suddenly reached out and grabbed his other arm. She gritted her teeth, but in the end, she couldn't help but cry out, ouch. I think I'm going to give birth too. Giving birth was the biggest pain in a woman's life. Even the strongest Long Bing couldn't bear it. The 4 pregnant women in the car were all going to give birth. This situation was too sudden. Charlotte was completely dumbfounded and didn't know what to do. When Fan Fan and Liang Xiao were going to give birth, he thought it was a coincidence. When Jiang Rui was going to give birth, he already felt that it was abnormal. Now that the same thing was happening to Long Bing, he couldn't believe that it was a coincidence. However, if it wasn't a coincidence, then what was going on in front of him? Charlotte's left and right eyes moved slightly, and he instantly switched to Transcendent mode. He first scanned Fan Fan's stomach with his X-ray vision. In Fan Fan's stomach, a little girl was moving restlessly. Her little hands and feet were grabbing and kicking in Fan Fan's stomach. No wonder Fan Fan was in so much pain. Just as Charlotte scanned Fan Fan's stomach with his X-ray vision, his daughter adjusted her position in the squirming. She was originally in a standing position with her head above her feet, but after a few squirms, she actually adjusted her body to a position with her head below her feet. Charlotte couldn't believe what he said he saw. The little princess in Fan Fan's belly suddenly revealed a trace of a smile. Charlotte was shocked by her and didn't come back to his senses for a long time. He thought he was hallucinating, but when he looked again, his little princess was still smiling. It gave him the feeling that his daughter had successfully adjusted the position that was conducive to her birth. After succeeding, she was happy, so she smiled. But the problem was, how could a child who was still in her mother's womb have emotions? Charlotte then moved his X-ray vision to Liang Xiao's stomach. There was a little boy in Liang Xiao's stomach. His body position was normal, with his head below his feet. But the little guy was also restless. He struggled and kept moving toward the exit. It gave him the feeling that his son couldn't wait to come into this world. Charlotte then scanned Jiang Rui's and Long Bing's bellies with his X-ray vision. Their two children's situation was roughly the same. They were both struggling to move toward the exit and couldn't wait to be born. A thought suddenly came to Charlotte's mind. Could it be that there is some spiritual connection between my four children and they have agreed to be born together today? As her father, he was shocked by this conjecture. Chapter 1095. Night 15 died in front of the inpatient building of the Army Hospital. A large group of doctors and nurses had been waiting there for a long time. None of the doctors and nurses were male, and there was an emergency stretcher next to them. When the pregnant women got out of the car, they could be sent to the operating room. This kind of treatment was not something that could be enjoyed with money, because the woman who came here to give birth was Fan Fan. Even the director of the Army Hospital had to respectfully call her chief. What's more, she was Charlotte's woman. When night 15 stopped, they swarmed up for fear that others would beat them to it. Charlotte jumped out of the car. Xiaolei jumped out of the car. He was carrying a pregnant woman in his arms. It was Fan Fan. But when the two nurses pushed the emergency stretcher over, they heard this. Hurry up. Go and prepare 3 more operating rooms. There are 3 more pregnant women to give birth. The nurse who was pushing the stretcher suddenly braked. Not only did the stretcher stop, but she was also stunned. 3 more pregnant women? What was going on? A large group of doctors who were really waiting to pick up the pregnant women were also stunned. Charlotte said anxiously, "Didn't you hear? Hurry up." Only then did someone call to arrange the operating room. There were also nurses pushing the stretcher. It was a mess. A few minutes later, the 4 pregnant women were sent to the operating room. The 4 pregnant women were on 4 different floors in different operating rooms. Charlotte didn't know who to accompany. Until now, his mind was in a mess. A hospital staff found Charlotte outside the operating room where Fan Fan was going to deliver the baby. He said politely and respectfully, "Mr. Xia, we need to do a registration. We need you to sign the consent form. When you have time." Xiaolei clearly had nothing to do. The hospital staff member's question was actually a very humble form of flattery. Charlotte said, "What registration? What consent form?" "Mr. Xia, of course, it's your wife's consent to have children here. This is just a process, but this process is very important because we need to fill in some information on the child's birth certificate, such as the name of the child's father and mother, birthplace, and so on." "Give it to me. I'll fill it up," Charlotte said. The staff handed a form and a consent form to Charlotte, as well as the pen in his hand. Charlotte quickly filled it out and said, "There's only one. It's not enough. Go get 3 more. The staff of the civil defense, as well as the 2 little nurses standing behind him, looked at Xiaolei dumbfounded. Charlotte said, "Why are you looking at me like that? Hurry up and get it. I don't have that much time to wait for you here." "Mr. Xia, are the other 3 pregnant women also your wives?" The staff member of the hospital braced himself and asked, "Of course. Do you have any questions?" Charlotte stared at him. No, I don't have any questions." The hospital staff took a step and turned back. "Mr. Xia, can you show me your marriage certificate? I can help you fill in some of the contents." Charlotte was stunned for a moment, then reached into his bag and rummaged around. The 2 little nurses whispered. A man made 4 women's stomachs, and they also gave birth on the same day. "What's the situation?" A little nurse sighed. Another little nurse whispered, "He must not have extra marriage certificates," and he pretended to dig around. "He must be delaying time." "Certainly not. If there is, wouldn't it be a crime of bigamy? I'll see how he ends up." Just as the 2 nurses were whispering to each other, Xiaolei took out 4 red marriage certificates from the inside pocket of his suit and placed them in the hands of the staff in the distance. He did not forget to urge them, hurry up and go. Also, tell your people to take good care of my wife and children. Of course, of course. The hospital staff held the 4 marriage certificates. On the surface, he was respectful, but in his heart, he muttered, 3 of them must be fake, right? Hurry up, Charlotte said anxiously. Only then did the hospital staff take a step forward. He turned his back to Charlotte and quickly left. As he searched, he flipped through the 4 marriage certificates. The first one he saw was the marriage certificate of Charlotte and Fan Fan. Everything on it was normal. When he opened the second one, he was stunned. The second marriage certificate was the marriage certificate of Charlotte and Liang Xiao. Everything on it was normal, except that there was a handwritten special approval on the marriage certificate and a private seal of the chief. He then flipped open the 3rd and 4th marriage certificates. The 3rd and 4th marriage certificates also had the handwritten words special approval on them, as well as the official's personal seal. 2 young nurses moved closer to the staff in the distance. One of them smiled and said, "Chief, they must be fake, right?" The other young nurse also said, "They're using fake marriage certificates. But Charlotte is our national hero. What should we do? Should we do business or turn a blind eye?" "Shut up," the hospital staff said angrily. "They are getting married with special approval." Ah, the 2 young nurses were stunned. With these 4 marriage certificates, Charlotte could go unimpeded in the hospital. Even if he went to the police station to register his child's household registration, he could also go unimpeded. In other people's countries, such behavior would be considered bigamy. But in his country, such behavior was specially approved. Special permission for bigamy. That was really awesome. The law was nothing more than human feelings. Charlotte risked his life for this country and made unparalleled contributions. He established the Rema Group and single-handedly carried China's military industry to the top of the world. It was also he who drove away the U.S. 7th Fleet and resolved the war crisis in the Southern Sea. With his contributions to this country and people, why couldn't he marry a few more women? Charlotte didn't care about this at all. He had entered the most anxious moment of his life. He walked back and forth outside the operating room. Qin Xiang, who was accompanying him, was dazzled. "I say, can you not go? You're like an alarm clock right now. It's making my eyes dizzy." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "How can I not be anxious? My wife is about to give birth, and it's going to be 4. At this moment, the 3 elevators next to the operating room opened at the same time. 3 nurses walked out at the same time. "Mr. Xia, your wife, Long Bing, wants you to accompany her in the operating room," a nurse said. "Mr. Xia, your wife, Jiang Rui, wants you to accompany her in the operating room," a nurse said. "Mr. Xia, your wife, Liang Xiao, wants you to accompany her in the operating room," a nurse said. The 3 nurses said almost nothing. When they finished speaking, Charlotte's head turned into 3, and he almost exploded. Didn't Liang Xiao and Long Bing clearly say that they wouldn't let him enter the operating room to watch them give birth? Why did they suddenly change their minds? However, before he could figure out this problem, the door of the operating room behind him opened and a nurse walked out. "Mr. Xia, Chief Fan wants you to accompany her in." Charlotte's vision went black, marrying 4 women, and it was even specially approved. Which man wouldn't be envious? He should be happy, right? But when he had a headache, other men would never be able to experience it. Now, Charlotte was experiencing a huge headache that other men couldn't experience. His 4 big bellies gave birth on the same day, and his 4 big bellies wanted him to accompany them in the operating room at the same time. Of course, a woman wanted her husband to accompany her when she gave birth and witnessed the birth of the crystallization of love. But the problem was, he didn't know how to split himself. How could he enter 4 operating rooms on 4 different floors at the same time to accompany his 4 wives to give birth? "Ha ha!" Qin Xiang laughed so hard that she bent over. Charlotte slapped her. Qin Xiang covered the back of her head and said eagerly, "You only know how to bully me. You 3 go back, I'll be right there." Charlotte followed her into the operating room behind him. Fan Fan was lying on the operating table with her legs bent, and covered with a piece of white cloth. She kept groaning and looked very uncomfortable. However, when Charlotte came in, the corner of her mouth immediately revealed a smile. "Hubby, it hurts." Charlotte walked over and held her hand. He comforted her and said, "Don't worry, it'll be over soon. I'm by your side." "Hubby, ouch." Fan grabbed Charlotte's arm. Because of the sudden pain, she bit down on Charlotte's arm. Charlotte's mouth immediately opened, but he didn't cry out. His eyes jumped slightly and fell on her little belly. In Fan's little belly, a little princess was squeezing out. Her chubby butt was sticking out, and her pair of short legs were kicking. Her body's coordination was amazing. She had such an ability even before she was born. If she grew up, it would be amazing. Soon, Chief Fan, use more strength." The midwife guided Fan in giving birth. Charlotte moved closer to Fan's ear and whispered, "Honey, I'll go see them. I'll be back soon. You go ahead." Fan must be reluctant to let Charlotte leave her at this time, but she was very clear about her family situation. She was not the only wife that Charlotte had. He had 3 other wives, and they were also giving birth in the operating room. No one wanted this to happen, but it did. Charlotte walked out of the operating room. He didn't have time to take the elevator, so he directly climbed up the stairs. He entered the operating room on this floor, and the one giving birth in this operating room was Jiang Rui. She was sweating profusely from the pain, and her lips were trembling. "Ouch, it hurts, ugh." Charlotte quickly walked over, took Jiang Rui's hand, and comforted her. "Rui, don't be afraid. It'll be over soon. It hurts. You've bullied me since we were young, and you bullied me before your child was born, ugh," Jiang Rui said as she tried to give birth. Charlotte's gaze moved to Jiang Rui's bulging belly, and his eyes switched to X-ray and scanning mode. He soon saw the little princess in Jiang Rui's belly. The little guy was in the same situation as the child in Fan's belly. He was also trying his best to squeeze out, and his body coordination was amazing. Charlotte was secretly surprised. Did my 4 children really make an appointment to be born at the same time? If so, didn't my 4 children have a spiritual connection before? If there is no spiritual connection, how did my 4 children communicate and make an appointment to be born together today? Amazing body coordination, appointment, spiritual connection, no matter which keyword, it surprised him as a father. After accompanying Jiang Rui for 2 minutes, Charlotte braced himself and said, "Rui, I have to go see Xiao in Longbing. I'll come back to accompany you later, okay?" Jiang Rui bit her cherry lips and nodded. Go. I'm fine. I'm satisfied to see you." Charlotte kissed her and then left the operating room. Jiang Rui watched him leave. There was a trace of sadness in her heart, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. She, Liang Xiao, Fan, and Long Bing were like sisters. She wouldn't be jealous of them at this time. Chapter 1096. Liang Jingchun also arrived. Just as Charlotte was about to enter the operating room where Liang Xiao was, he met Charlotte. "Lei." Liang Jingchun's voice was also full of excitement. "How's the situation?" Charlotte said, "Master, don't worry. Xiao is inside. She's fine. There won't be a problem." "Remember what you promised me," Liang Jingchun said, as if he was afraid that Charlotte would go back on his word. Charlotte smiled. "Master, don't worry. I won't forget. Xiao, I have discussed it. She will name the child, and the child will follow her surname." Liang Jingchun suddenly smiled. That's good. I don't know how to thank you." "Master, we are family. There's no need to thank me. The child will follow Xiao's surname." "He is still my child," Charlotte said. "Lei, are you so sure that it's your son?" Liang Jingchun seemed to think of something and asked. "I have a hunch. By the way, I'll go in and accompany Xiao first." Charlotte didn't explain further. "Go ahead. I'll wait outside," Liang Jingchun said. After Charlotte entered the operating room, he paced back and forth at the door. He was even more like an alarm clock than Charlotte. On the operating table, Liang Xiao was sweating profusely and groaning in pain. However, although it was the same pain, her ability to endure pain was obviously much stronger than Jiang Rui and Fan. When Charlotte entered the operating room, she even smiled at Charlotte and motioned him to come to her side. Charlotte walked to the operating table and wiped the sweat from her forehead with his hand. He said gently, "Just bear with it. It'll be over soon." I never thought that giving birth to a child would be so painful. Ouch! Liang Xiao cried again. The little guy is kicking me again. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Liang Xiao's stomach. His left and right eyes instantly switched to X-ray vision and scanning mode. A baby boy soon appeared in his line of sight. The little guy had already moved to the exit, but he was still restless. His little hands were clawing, and his chubby little feet were kicking around. It gave him the feeling that this little guy was born to practice martial arts. In the future, he would inherit Liang Zhengquan's legacy and become a great Wing Chun master. Xiao Master is here too. Charlotte held Liang Xiao's hand. I promised him that the child in your belly will have your surname. You can name it. You are the child's father. You should be the one to name him. Liang Xiao said. What's the difference? Charlotte said with a smile. Liang Xiao punched Charlotte. I want to name it. The child is yours. If you don't name it, who will? Charlotte thought for a moment. The child will have his mother's surname. The Liang family will be called Liang Jiayu. Liang Jiayu. Liang Xiao repeated the name. Why did you name him this way? Charlotte said, Yu Tong Yu, Liang Jiayu, the child raised by the Liang family. I gave him this name in the hope that he will remember his mission. In the future, he will inherit my legacy and carry forward Wing Chun. Liang Xiao's heart was moved. Her lips trembled slightly, but the words that came out were, Xiao, I have to go see Long Bing. I will be back soon. Charlotte said. Liang Xiao nodded. Go. Ouch. Little brat, when you come out, I will spank you. Ouch. Before he was born, he had been practicing kung fu in his mother's belly. This naughty child really deserved to be spanked. On the next floor, Charlotte came to the operating room where Long Bing was. He saw Long Bing, who was gritting her teeth and enduring the pain of childbirth. She was obviously the strongest of the four women. She didn't scream, but her expression looked painful. Charlotte walked over and held her hand tightly. He didn't say anything because he knew that Long Bing didn't need any comfort at all. Among his four women, Liang Xiao had a father, Fan Fan had a grandfather, Jiang Rui's parents were still alive, and Long Bing had no family. And he was now Long Bing's only relative in the world. Therefore, he always had a special kind of love for Long Bing. Hubby, I'm fine. It's good that you can come and see me. You should go and accompany them. Long Bing said. As she spoke, a few beads of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. How could Charlotte bear to leave her at this time? He said gently, Let me stay here with you for a while. Why don't we give our son a name together? He had already given a name to Liang Xiao's son. Long Bing, Fan Fan, and Jiang Rui's children also needed a name. As a father, he had to do this kind of thing sooner or later. Long Bing groaned in pain. Charlotte quickly diverted her attention. Bing, our child. Our child will be called Xiaolong, Xiaolong. Long Bing repeated the name. She repeated it twice and then smiled. I like this name. But as soon as I hear this name, people will know that this is your child and mine. Charlotte said with a smile, I want everyone to know that he is your child and mine. Xiaolong, our son will soar back and forth like a dragon and roam above the 9 heavens. Giggle. Long Bing couldn't help but laugh. You don't even know what a child looks like. As a father, you're already bragging. Aren't you ashamed? Charlotte leaned over and kissed her forehead. Then he opened his left and right eyes and looked at her belly. He had already grasped the situation of Liang Xiao, Fan Fan, and Jiang Rui's children. He also wanted to grasp the situation of Long Bing's child. In Long Bing's belly, a fat boy had moved his body near the exit. His limbs kept moving and tossing, trying to break out of the cocoon. He seemed to be a little bigger than Liang Xiao's child and looked a little stronger. Charlotte was filled with joy. Bing, our son is so obedient. Long Bing rolled her eyes at Charlotte. You don't even know what your son looks like, and you praise him for being obedient. You'll definitely spoil him in the future. I won't allow you to spoil him. If he's not obedient, don't protect him when I teach him a lesson. Charlotte laughed happily. You say it as if you don't spoil him. Let's wait and see. You must be the one who spoils him the most. The couple spoke one after another, and the midwife's doctor and nurse were completely at a loss for words. However, a minute later, Long Bing suddenly cried out in pain. Ouch! He's coming out. She grabbed Charlotte's arm tightly, and her 5 fingernails dug into Charlotte's skin. Charlotte didn't feel anything at all. His eyes were fixed on Long Bing's belly. In his vision, his son Xia Long's little hands squeezed into the passage of birth. His hands were clasped together, and his arms and body were in a straight line. That posture was like a swimmer who was about to enter the water. Charlotte was dumbfounded. Could it be that he already has a very clear consciousness? He knew that he was about to come into this world, so he adjusted his body into this posture? But how is this possible? Indeed, an unborn baby's brain should be a blur, and he wouldn't know anything. Even if he had any reaction, it would be an innate human instinct. However, based on what Xiaolong was doing now, it was an action that could only be done by a 2- or 3-year-old child. It must be my genes. Charlotte suddenly thought of something. It must be my evolutionary genes. Although he is still an unborn baby, he has evolutionary genes that surpass all humans. He has already started the path of evolution in his mother's womb. The truth was in front of Charlotte. His son Xiaolong was the same as him, and he also had evolutionary genes that surpassed all humans. He was also in existence with special abilities. If Long Bing's child was like this, then the children of Fan Fan, Jiang Rui, and Liang Xiao would definitely be like this. The Xiao family had these 4 children, and they also had Rema Group as their capital. It was impossible for the Xiao family not to prosper. He's coming out. He's coming out. The midwife shouted excitedly. Mrs. Long, use a little more strength to help him. Okay. Long Bing took a deep breath and then held it with all her might. Wah! A baby's cry rang out in the operating room. This kind of cry was the most beautiful sound that the heavens had given to humans. It symbolized the birth of a new life. It's a son. He's so heavy. The doctor said with a smile. I want to hug my son. Charlotte was very anxious and excited. However, the doctor said, that won't do. There are bacteria on your hands. We have to give a child a bath and wrap him in a swaddle. After that, you can hug him. Oh, then hurry up, Charlotte urged. At this moment, the operating room door suddenly opened, and 3 nurses appeared at the door. Mr. Xia, your wife, Mrs. Liang, gave birth to a son for you. You should quickly go and take a look. A nurse said, Mr. Xia, your wife, Mrs. Fan, gave birth to a daughter for you. You should quickly go and take a look. A nurse said, Mr. Xia, your wife, Mrs. Jiang, gave birth to a daughter for you. You should quickly go and take a look. A nurse said, these 4 little fellows had really discussed it, and were born at the same time. Charlotte's eyes really went dark. He lay on Long Bing's body. Long Bing held Charlotte's head and giggled. You should be happy, but your little guy seems to be deliberately playing tricks on you. Even Long Bing felt that it was strange, but her words were more tactful. 10 minutes later, the 4 women were sent to a luxurious ward. The 4 children were carried in front of Charlotte, 2 sons and 2 daughters. Charlotte had already named his 2 sons, and now it was time for him to name his 2 daughters. Charlotte held his and Jiang Rui's daughter and kissed her little face. He thought for a moment and said, Little princess, Daddy will name you Xia Jianghe, okay? You're a lotus that grows from the river in summer. Do you like it? Jiang Rui said with a smile. I like it. What she liked was actually Charlotte's last sentence. Wasn't her daughter a seed that Charlotte, the sky, sowed in her river, and then a flower grew out of it? Charlotte put Xia Jianghe in Jiang Rui's arms, and then picked up his and Fan Fan's daughter. His and Fan Fan's daughter was as beautiful and cute as Xia Jianghe. She had a chubby, smiling face, and her eyes were big. The little princess didn't cry. She stared at her father with her sparkling black eyes, as if she wanted to remember Charlotte's appearance. Charlotte already had an idea in his mind. He said with a smile, Daddy's little darling, Daddy will give you a name. Xia Fan. Giggle. Charlotte and Fan Fan's daughter laughed, and her laughter was as clear as a silver bell. Fan Fan curled her lips and said, "Hubby, aren't you too lazy? Your and Ah Bing's son will be called Xia Long, and our daughter will be called Xia Fan. If my surname is Mian, are you going to give me Xia Mian?" Charlotte said with a smile, "What do you know, Xia Fan? A fairy descending to the world. Our daughter is a fairy descending to the world. How artistic." Fan Fan was stunned for a moment, and then she giggled. "That's a good name. I like it." Charlotte glanced at Fan Fan's chest, which was full of food, and thought to himself, "Does having a big chest degenerate your IQ?" Xia Fan suddenly slapped Charlotte's eyes. Even though it was just a small gesture that many children would do, she was still a newborn baby. Moreover, she was doing it when he was insulting her mother in his heart. So he couldn't help but think about it. He then glanced at Fan Fan's chest and said to himself, "I'm going to eat both of them tonight." Xia Fan's chubby palm slapped Charlotte's other eye. Charlotte's mind went blank. Chapter 1097. There were a lot of reporters outside the hospital, but they were all stopped by the police and special forces, unable to enter the military hospital. Charlotte's importance to China had reached an unparalleled level, and the country would naturally protect him and his family to the extreme. Not only that, the hospital also made it mandatory for the medical staff not to reveal any information about Charlotte, his wife, and his children, or they would be fired. After all, if the news of 4 specially approved marriage certificates were reported by the media, it would more or less cause a stir. Just like an award of the presidential suite of a hotel, Charlotte was still observing his babies lying in 4 cribs. Under normal circumstances, babies would be sent to the nursery after they were born. However, Charlotte's children seemed to have the physical qualities of a 2- or 3-month-old child the moment they were born, so there was no need for them to enter the nursery at all. In addition, Charlotte was also afraid of any accidents, so he also requested that his children not go to the nursery, so his children were left with their mother. The ward was quiet, and the 4 pregnant women were asleep. They were very weak and tired after giving birth, so they fell asleep not long after they were sent to this ward. Charlotte's left and right eyes locked on Xia Long, and his X-ray vision and scanning vision carefully entered the little guy's brain. The little guy's brain looked normal, and no one saw the mineral powder until he finished the X-ray scan. This discovery made him slightly relieved. If his children really had the same substance that could store mysterious energy like him, or even like Zhu Xianyue, then it would not be a good thing. His children could inherit his excellent genes, and they could be extremely smart, but he did not want them to be like him. He was actually a living example. He had an evolution that surpassed all human beings. The black-robed man wanted to kill him, and so did the Americans and the Japanese. If his children were like him, then they would face almost the same life. 2 years would soon come. If he left, who would protect them? In the face of those strong enemies, their mother would not be able to protect them at all. After scanning Xia Long, Charlotte scanned Xia Jianghe, Xia Fan, and Liang Jiayu. These 3 children were in the same condition as Xia Long. Be it their brains or body organs, they were no different from normal babies. After the scan, Charlotte couldn't help but laugh at himself. He remembered the 2 slaps that Xia Fan had given him. At that time, he was slandering Fan Fan for having big breasts and no brains, and Xia Fan gave him a tight slap. Then, just as he was about to steal Xia Fan's milk, Xia Fan slapped him again. At that time, he even thought that Xia Fan could sense and capture his thoughts, which was why he hit him. Now, it seemed that those 2 slaps were just a coincidence. There is no reason for a baby to slap an adult. However, he still had a question that he did not understand. According to the time on January's birth certificate, his 4 children were born at the same minute, and the time difference was no more than 30 to 50 seconds. Could this also be a coincidence? In short, the 4 children looked normal, but he could feel that they were just like him, their father, full of mystery. It was also based on the difference of 30 to 50 seconds that Charlotte managed to sort out the order of his children. Liang Jiayu was born first and was the eldest. Xia Long was born second and was the second eldest. Xia Fan was born third and was the third eldest. Xia Jianghe was born last and was the youngest. Actually, the order of who was the eldest, second, third, and youngest was a little vague because they were born only 30 to 50 seconds apart. Charlotte picked Xia Jianghe up and kissed her cheek. With a doting expression, he said, "Little Jianghe, you are Daddy's youngest daughter. Daddy will love you the most. Okay?" The emperor loved the eldest, and the people loved the youngest. However, Xiaolei was just joking. No matter which one of the 4 children he loved, there was no difference between the most and the second most. Xia Jianghe stared at her father with her big black eyes, and then she giggled. Her eyes were like her mother's, and her nose was like his. It was like a combination of him and Jiang Rui. Fanfan's daughter, Xia Fan, was the same. She was like a combination of him and Fan Fan, very beautiful. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door. "Sir, you can't go in." It was a female nurse's voice. Liang Zhengchuan's voice came from outside the door. "I'm the child's grandfather. Why can't I go in?" "I'm sorry, old sir. This was specially instructed by our director. Please don't make things difficult for me. Okay?" The nurse pleaded. "I'm not making things difficult for you. You're making things difficult for me. Get out of my way. I want to see my grandson." Liang Zhengchun was furious. Charlotte put Xia Jianghe on the baby's bed, and then picked up Liang Jiayu to open the door. If there was only Liang Xiao in the ward, he would invite Liang Zhengchun in, but there were also Fan Fan, Long Bing, and Jiang Rui in the ward, which was a little inconvenient. After all, the little guys needed milk when they were hungry. If Liang Zhengchun was in the ward, how could the 4 mothers feed the babies? He knew that Liang Zhengchun wanted to see Liang Jiayu the most, so he carried Liang Jiayu out. "Master," Charlotte greeted him, and then said to the nurse who was guarding the door, "Go ahead and do your work. Come back later." "Okay, Mr. Xia." The nurse left. "Master, this little guy is Liang Jiayu." Charlotte handed Liang Jiayu to Liang Zhengchuan's arms and said with a smile, "Jiayu, this is Grandpa. Call him Grandpa." Liang Zhengchun held Liang Jiayu in his arms. When he heard that Charlotte asked Liang Jiayu to call him Grandpa, he was stunned for a moment, and tears of excitement and joy appeared in his old eyes. He was Liang Jiayu's grandfather, but Charlotte asked Liang Jiayu to call him Grandpa. Just this change in address had moved him. He had been short of a successor, so he asked Charlotte to give his first son the surname of Liang Xiao. Now, Charlotte had fulfilled his request. He had also changed from a grandfather to a grandfather. Liang Zhengchun didn't know how to thank Charlotte. He was so excited that he couldn't say anything. Charlotte smiled and said, "Master, we are a family. Just remember that." Liang Zhengchun also smiled. He kissed Liang Jiayu's face and said, "Jiayu, call me Grandpa. Call me Grandpa." Liang Jiayu stared at Liang Zhengchun and opened his mouth, "Duck." This pronunciation shocked Charlotte and Liang Zhengchun because the initial consonant of duck and grandpa was the same. A newborn child would only cry under normal circumstances. How could he make the sound of duck? Moreover, this was when Liang Zhengchun asked him to call him Grandpa. Liang Zhengchun was the first to come to his senses. He laughed and said, "My God, he is indeed your child. He is extremely smart. I will teach him everything I know, and his mother will train him in culture. In the future, he will definitely be a genius in both literature and martial arts." Charlotte said, "Master, I have a son and 2 daughters. You also have to teach them." "Ha ha!" Liang Zhengchun laughed and said, "I knew you would say that. Okay, as long as he is your child, I will treat him equally." "Thank you, Master." Charlotte also laughed. "Wah wah wah." The baby's cry came from the ward. Fanfan's voice followed. "Honey, give the baby to me. I will feed him." Longbing's voice also came. "Honey, Xiaolong is also crying. Give him to me quickly. I will feed him." Perhaps the crying of his brother and sister in the ward affected Liang Jiayu. He also opened his mouth and cried. Liang Zhengchun tried to coax him twice, but it didn't work at all. He quickly handed Liang Jiayu to Charlotte and said, "Jiayu must be hungry. Hurry up and take him in. Let his mother feed him." "Well, Master, then I will go in first." Charlotte carried Liang Jiayu into the ward. The 3 children in the ward were crying loudly. Their voices were louder than the other, giving people the feeling that it was a crying competition between brothers and sisters. Liang Xiao struggled to sit up on the bed and said, "Honey, is my father outside?" Charlotte put Liang Jiayu in her arms and said, "Yes, master. He is very happy." Liang Xiao smiled, lifted the patient's clothes, and stuffed a snow-white one into Liang Jiayu's mouth. The little guy opened his mouth and sucked it. Charlotte then carried the other 3 children to their mothers. Long Bing, Fan Fan, and Jiang Rui also lifted the patient's clothes and stuffed a snow-white one into their children's mouths. The crying stopped, and the sound of sucking came one after another. It was very lively. Charlotte was like an inspector, looking at this and that with a covetous look. Fan Fan rolled her eyes at Charlotte and said, "You are so shameless. Look at your eyes. Do you want to eat it too?" Charlotte laughed and said, "If you have extra, I can eat some if little Fan Fan can't finish it." "Bah, you are so shameless. You are fighting for milk with your own daughter." Fan Fan laughed and scolded, but then she lifted the other side of the patient's clothes and said, "If you really have the face to eat it, you can eat it." Charlotte hesitated for a moment and really went over. Liang Xiao laughed and scolded, "Oh, honey, you are so shameless. Let me tell you first, I don't have extra for you to eat." Long Bing said. Jiang Rui even covered Xia Jiang's eyes with her hands and said, "Baby, close your eyes. Your father is going to be a hooligan." Charlotte ignored the women's scolding and laughter. He lay on his side beside Fan Fan and really looked like another Snow White, one of Fan Fan's plump Snow White one. But before he could open his mouth, little Fan Fan stretched out a hand and poked a chubby finger into his nostril. Then she started to dig. "Ha ha!" Fan Fan laughed and shook. "Look, your daughter is not going to forgive you. She wants to beat you." Charlotte kissed little Fan Fan's little hand, and his eyes were full of tenderness and doting. "Daddy's little baby. Daddy is hungry. Can you share some with Daddy?" It was also strange. Little Fan Fan's little hand retracted. "Huh," she agreed. "She is really a daddy's good daughter." Charlotte opened his mouth. Fan Fan suddenly pulled down the patient's clothes and covered the granary. "Go away, I don't want to feed your big son." Charlotte. There was a cheerful laughter in the ward. Do-do-do, do-do-do, in a warm and sweet atmosphere. Charlotte's satellite phone suddenly rang. He took out the satellite phone and looked at it, then got up and walked to the door. The moment he left the ward, the expressions of the 4 women became gloomy. Chapter 1098. The person who called was Giovanna. "Boss, are you in the hospital now?" It was Giovanna's voice. Charlotte said, "Yes, I'm in the Army hospital. We're at the entrance of the Army hospital, but we can't get in. Come out for a while. We have important news for you," Giovanna said. "I'll be right out." Charlotte put away the satellite phone and returned to the ward. His eyes swept over the 4 women who were feeding the children. He felt a little guilty for his new work, but he still braced himself and said, "It's Giovanna and the others who are looking for me. They said they have important news. I'll go and have a look. Be careful." These words came out of the 4 women's mouths almost at the same time. Charlotte's heart was moved. He nodded and then left the ward. He actually didn't want to go anywhere. He really wanted to spend the most wonderful moment of his life with his wife and children. But the reality was so cruel. The time he had left was getting less and less, and there were so many things that he needed to do, and each one was more difficult than the last. How could he stay to accompany his wife and children to enjoy the happiness of a family? Walking out of the gate of the Army hospital, Charlotte saw the Harvard H9 off-road vehicle that Giovanna and the others were driving. It was a domestic off-road vehicle in China, which was only about 200,000 yuan, but its comprehensive performance was not inferior to those imported off-road vehicles that were worth 600,000 to 700,000 yuan. Giovanna and the others actually had the money to buy a better car, but they were very thrifty, so they bought such a cost-effective off-road vehicle as their mobile vehicle in China. As soon as Charlotte walked to the side of the Harvard H9, Teresa, who was sitting on the sofa in the back seat, opened the door for him and said with a smile, Congratulations, you're a father. Thank you. Charlotte smiled. He got in the car and went straight to the point. Tell me, are you bringing news about Zhu Xianyue? Giovanna said, Yes, our brothers and sisters have found her whereabouts. Tell me, where is she? Charlotte said anxiously. Giovanna said, Teresa, let boss take a look at it. Teresa picked up a laptop bag next to the sofa. She took out a laptop from her bag. She woke up the computer and placed it on Charlotte's knees. A video was playing on a laptop. It was a dirty residential building. Black men in strange clothes, covered in tattoos, wandered around the building. Those people didn't look like good people at first glance, and this place could also be seen at a glance. It was a slum in the United States. The cameraman walked toward the residential building, and the image was shaky. The camera was obviously hidden in one of his buttons. His face could not be seen, but his moving arm could be seen. He was carrying a black leather suitcase in his hand, but it was unknown what was inside. The cameraman walked to the entrance of the residential building. Two black boys standing by the door were trying to sell him drugs. He did not say anything and went straight into the residential building. Then he climbed up the stairs. Charlotte said, Is this cameraman from our rescue club? Rosa said, No, he's actually a special agent of the CIA. A special agent of the CIA? Charlotte was a little surprised. Stella said, The CIA is also tracking Zhu Xianyue. After all, the United States is their own territory. They have a very powerful intelligence network and a full coverage surveillance system. If we want to find Zhu Xianyue, the easiest way is to start with the CIA. Zhu Xianyue ate people. If she was in the United States, there would definitely be many dead people with brain atrophy. It was normal for the CIA to open a case and investigate. Giovanna and the others were obviously playing the role of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind it. This is a video taken by a special agent of the CIA. How did you get this video from the CIA? Charlotte asked. Giovanna smiled. Boss, continue watching. The answer to your question is also in this video. Charlotte's attention shifted to the video. The cameraman climbed up 5 floors and entered a corridor. There was graffiti everywhere in the corridor. There were violent and offensive graffiti, as well as evil-looking graffiti. There were skulls, grim reapers holding scythes, and even some graffiti related to sex. The content was unbearable to look at. A black woman with heavy makeup stood in front of a door. She looked very young and sexy. She was wearing a white bikini. It was the kind that was very thin and see-through, almost unable to cover the important parts of her body. As a result, some of her feminine features were half exposed in front of the camera. When the cameraman passed by the black woman's door, she waved at him, indicating for him to enter her room and receive her services. The cameraman waved his hand and continued to walk forward. The black woman standing by the door gave him the middle finger unhappily and even scolded him. However, he did not react angrily. Charlotte's gaze suddenly shifted to the wall. He saw a paragraph of graffiti, and his eyes could not move away. The content of that paragraph of graffiti was not the language of any ethnic group in this world, but the words on the bronze grimoire. When Charlotte saw that paragraph of graffiti, his brain started to work at almost the same time, trying to decipher those strange words. The content of that paragraph of graffiti was, Damn Uncle Xia, you colluded with that guy to beat me up. Go to hell. I don't want you anymore. This was what Zhu Xianyue had painted on the wall. Although the CIA agent had filmed this paragraph of graffiti, no one in the entire United States could decipher it. Giovanna and the others obviously saw this paragraph of graffiti, but they also did not know what it meant. From this paragraph of graffiti, it was not hard to see that Zhu Xianyue had grievances in her heart. She thought that Charlotte and the black-robed man had colluded together. Seeing this paragraph of graffiti, Charlotte's heart was filled with complicated feelings. On one hand, he felt gratified and happy for her, but on the other hand, he felt depressed because of her misunderstanding. How could he collude with the black-robed man to harm her? He was also threatened with death by the black-robed man. The cameraman continued to walk forward and then stopped in front of a door in the corridor. 2 black men, who were as strong as chimpanzees, stood in front of the door. They wore thick gold necklaces and gold watches, and the rings on their fingers were also ridiculously large. They had 2 pistols on their waists, and their entire bodies exuded a fierce and dangerous aura. There was also that kind of graffiti on the door, Hell's Gate. Charlotte frowned slightly. What is Zhu Xianyue trying to do? The 2 black men at the door searched the cameraman's body and opened the door. The cameraman walked in. The space behind the door was very spacious, and there were many bone-like decorations on the wall, as well as red paint. The walls and floor were black, and it gave off a very strange and eerie feeling. The black gunman looked at the cameraman with unfriendly eyes. The cameraman walked forward, and a desk and a woman sitting behind it entered the camera. Charlotte's gaze stopped on the woman, and he could not look away. She was Zhu Xianyue. Her appearance did not seem to have changed much, but her eyes were no longer the same as before. In the past, her eyes were full of innocence, but now there was a frightening coldness in her eyes, and even evil. Just as the cameraman walked to the desk, Zhu Xianyue stood up, and her voice was very cold. "Have you brought what I want?" "Yes." The cameraman put the black suitcase on the desk and opened it. There was a silver card and a silver uniform in the black suitcase. Charlotte's right. I instantly zoomed in on the silver card on the screen. He saw the number 51 foot and the name Sophia. The photo on the card was a photo of Zhu Xianyue, and she looked very serious in the photo. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. That card looks like a pass to Area 51. Does Zhu Xianyue want to enter Area 51? With her ability, she can just barge in and even raise the place to the ground. Why would she want to pass? In the video, the cameraman turned the suitcase to Zhu Xianyue and then said, "We've tested it, and it's completely fine. These things can let you enter Area 51 without anyone noticing. I've given you the things. Where's my money?" Zhu Xianyue suddenly reached out and grabbed the cameraman's neck. The cameraman's eyes suddenly glazed over, and within 3 seconds, his neck drooped down. Zhu Xianyue let go of her hand, and the cameraman's body fell to the ground. She said, "Take him out and throw him away." The 2 black gunmen then lifted the body on the ground and walked to the door. The camera was aimed at the ceiling, and a white pattern appeared on the monitor. The moment he saw the white pattern, Xia Lei's mind shook with a boom. It was a door drawn with white paint, and it was a door formed by white light. He was no stranger to it. He had seen it when he was looking through the crystal skull. When he looked through the crystal skull, he saw the illusion that he was in a space where he was alone. He walked forward, and the white light door was at the end of his path. Zhu Xianyue's image was no longer in the video, but at the end of the video, Zhu Xianyue's voice appeared. She said, "My warriors, let's go for a ride in Nevada." The gunman roared, and it was a mess. The video ended. Charlotte was still staring at the screen as if he had lost his soul. "Boss." Giovanna reached out and touched Charlotte's shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" Charlotte came back to his senses. "Nothing." Did the brothers and sisters of the Rescue Association find this video on the body? Giovanna nodded. "Yes, Zhu Xianyue's people threw the body into the cemetery. We have a brother who is a gravekeeper. He discovered the secret hidden in the body, and so it fell into our hands." Rosa said, "Siamu is also looking for Zhu Xianyue's whereabouts, but he didn't find anything. What we know is that Zhu Xianyue is building an armed force that belongs to her, and anyone who tries to find out about her will be killed." She gave this armed force a name, the Black Moon Army. Black Moon Army? Charlotte thought for a moment, and a strange chill rose in his heart. "Yes, a very strange name," Rosa said. "Boss, what do you plan to do?" Giovanna looked at Charlotte. Charlotte shook his head. "I don't know." He didn't have any plan in his heart, and it was a mess of feelings. However, through this video, he had already grasped an extremely bad situation. That was, Zhu Xianyue was no longer the naive little girl she used to be. She had transformed into a real demon. Zhu Xianyue was going to Area 51, and he wanted to see her very much to find out what she wanted to do. However, now that Zhu Xianyue had changed, he had no confidence that Zhu Xianyue would not attack him. Do. The the satellite phone suddenly rang again. Chapter 1099. The call was from Siamu. "It's me, Siamu." "Go ahead," said Charlotte. "Boss, there's finally some progress on the matter you asked me to investigate." It was Siamu's voice. The 6 faceless warrior statues were sent to Area 51, and the U.S. government launched a project called the Shepherd Project. The person in charge of the project is Alec of the AE Research Center, who is also the director of the AE Research Center. In addition, I also received a piece of unconfirmed news that the AE Research Center in Area 51 is preparing to melt the 6 faceless warrior statues. They seem to be extracting something. This was a very important piece of information. The main purpose of Charlotte's sending Siamu and Xianjun to the United States was to investigate the 6 faceless warrior statues that were shipped from Israel to the United States. The whereabouts of Zhu Xianyue was just an incidental investigation. Now it seemed that Siamu had gained a lot. Charlotte suppressed the excitement in his heart and said, "Do you know what they are extracting?" Siamu said, "The Shepherd Project is a top-secret project of the United States at this stage. This information is already my limit." Charlotte was lost in thought. He just learned that Zhu Xianyue was trying to find a way to enter Area 51. And now, Siamu sent him information that the Americans were preparing to extract something from the 6 faceless warrior statues. Although it was still unknown what the Americans wanted to extract from the 6 faceless warrior statues, it was certain that Zhu Xianyue wanted to enter Area 51. She was after something hidden in the 6 faceless warrior statues. Even Zhu Xianyue wanted it. What was it? Charlotte was confused. What is the situation in Area 51 now? Siamu smiled bitterly. "Boss, that is Area 51, the place where the United States tests secret weapons. There's even a rumor that it's a place where the United States studies aliens. That place is the most heavily guarded place in the world. There's almost no way to invade it, not even by using the human skin masks of our Zodiac squad." Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "Where are you and Qianjun now?" "Las Vegas, Nevada." It was Siamu's voice. He added, "Qianjun just came from Mexico. He's been hiding there. Do you want to talk to him?" "No," said Charlotte. "Boss, the woman you asked us to investigate." Siamu's voice had a hint of shame. "I didn't find her." Charlotte said, "No need. Giovanna and the others have already found it." "Huh. They're really amazing," Siamu said with a smile. "I heard from Qianjun that he was able to kill my Hattori and Hattori Misao thanks to the assistance of the Rescue Society led by the 4 female knights. Their Rescue Society is very useful." In Charlotte's opinion, the Rescue Society of the 4 female knights would be useful, but there were also limitations. It was not a problem to find people and spy on low-level information, especially when it came to finding people. However, spying on high-level information was not as useful as Siamu's intelligence network. After all, the people of the Rescue Society were poor people living at the bottom of society. The people and environment they came into contact with were completely different from Siamu's intelligence network. In short, the Rescue Society had its strengths, and Siamu's intelligence network also had its strengths. The two were very complementary. Charlotte said, "Remember, the brothers and sisters of the Rescue Society are your own people. If you need any help from them, just ask." "Okay, I'll remember that." "Boss, are we going to come back or continue to stay in Las Vegas to spy on information?" Siamu asked. "Stay there for the time being. I might come over to take a look," Charlotte said. "You want to come over?" "Hee. I knew you wouldn't stay at home for long." "Okay, I'll make some preparations first." "That's it then. Wait for my call." Charlotte hung up the phone. Giovanna said, "Boss, are you sure you want to go to Las Vegas?" Charlotte said, "I have to think about it." Giovanna said, "If you decide to go to Las Vegas, we could go to Mexico first and then enter the United States from Mexico. We have our own church and brothers and sisters in Mexico, and we also have our own church and brothers and sisters in the United States. This is actually very convenient. There is no need for Siamu to make any preparations at all." Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. "Is the Rescue Society's channel safe?" "Not a problem at all," Teresa said. What about the people from the Rescue Society? After all, there are many brothers and sisters in the Rescue Society that you haven't met. Charlotte had his own concerns. Teresa said, people with faith are different from those without. Boss, you can totally trust our brothers and sisters, just like you trust us. Charlotte smiled. I'm an atheist, and I don't have any special faith. Teresa had said earlier, you're the son of God. You're different from those without faith. Charlotte smiled. You've said everything, so I can't say anything else. You guys go back first. I'll let you know when I've made a decision. The Harvard H9 SUV left the entrance of the military hospital, and Charlotte entered the hospital. As he walked, he wondered if he should go to Las Vegas. From his point of view, he really wanted to find out what the Americans wanted to extract from the 6 faceless warrior statues. Also, he really wanted to see Zhu Xianyue and explain to her that he had not colluded with the black-robed man to frame him. He already had the black-robed man, an invincible opponent, and he could not afford to have an equally invincible opponent like Zhu Xianyue. From these 2 points of view, the trip to Las Vegas was not an option. However, if he went to Las Vegas, he would have to face 2 thorny problems. The first problem was the Americans, who wanted to kill him even in their dreams. If he went to Las Vegas and his whereabouts were exposed, he would be hunted down by the entire United States. The second problem was Zhu Xianyue. She had misunderstood that he had colluded with the black-robed man to frame her. If she attacked him as soon as they met, it would be extremely dangerous. If he did not solve these 2 problems, how would he dare to go to Las Vegas? Leicester, is there any trouble again? Qin Xiang asked in the corridor of the inpatient department. Charlotte said, there's no trouble, don't worry about it. Qin Xiang said, I can tell at a glance whether you have something on your mind or not, but there's really not much I can help with what you're doing now. However, if there's anything you need me to do, just let me know. I, Qin Xiang, will go through fire and water for you. Good, brother. Charlotte patted Qin Xiang's shoulder. Then go back to Ping in residence and get my hacking computer. I can't leave now. Qin Xiang. Charlotte rolled his eyes at Qin Xiang. Look at you. You said it so clearly, but you're not willing to do such a small thing? I'll go. Qin Xiang glared at Charlotte and left. Charlotte sighed and said in his heart, it's not that I don't want you to help, but the things I need to do are life-threatening. You still have your mother to take care of. How can I let you take risks? That's good. Just do some simple work. Back in the ward, the 4 women asked him what happened. He only said that the 4 female knights needed money to build a church and help the poor. He didn't mention anything else. He didn't want them to worry. The 4 women didn't pester him to ask questions. The family played with the child in the ward and chatted happily. Charlotte looked happy on the surface, but there was always a trace of sadness and worry in his heart. His 4 wives didn't know that he only had less than 2 years left. After that, he might leave them forever. Every time he thought of the happiness in front of him diminishing by a minute, how could he not feel sad? He didn't dare to imagine how painful it would be for Fan Fan, Liang Xiao, Long Bing, and Jiang Rui to lose him. More than an hour later, Qin Xiang brought his hacker's computer to the hospital. After Qin Xiang left, Charlotte began his work on a sofa in the ward. He placed the hacker's computer on his lap, and his 10 fingers typed on the keyboard. He was so fast that the keyboard was full of his fingers' after images. On the hospital bed, Fan Fan pointed at Charlotte, who was sitting on the sofa, and said to Xia Fan, Baby, look at what your father is doing. He's playing on the computer. Look at how good your father is. His typing speed is the fastest I've ever seen. Xia Fan looked at Charlotte and opened her mouth. Yeah, crawl. Fan Fan suddenly said excitedly, Honey, our daughter is calling you Daddy. Charlotte didn't look up. He said while operating the hacker's computer, It's not that exaggerated. She was just born. How could she call me Daddy? Crawl. Xia Fan's voice was heard. Fan Fan pouted. Our daughter is really calling you Daddy. She just doesn't say it clearly. Aren't you going to encourage her? Praise her? What are you doing? Yes, honey, what are you doing? Liang Xiao said. I heard Xia Fan calling you Daddy. I'm attacking the White House, said Charlotte. Long Bing couldn't help but spit out the water she had just drunk. Charlotte still didn't look up and continued to operate the hacker's computer. The ward was filled with the sound of keyboard tapping. The sound was like the sound of a rainstorm hitting a canopy. Ahem. Long Bing recovered. Honey, why are you attacking the White House? This is not a joke, Charlotte said with a smile. I'm creating some trouble for the owner of the White House. Liang Xiao rolled her eyes at Charlotte. You really have nothing to do. If you have nothing to do, come and help me collect some milk. It's too much and it's swelling. Charlotte was speechless. A few seconds later, his fingers suddenly stopped. He entered the system of the White House, but he was soon discovered that there was also a celestial system in the system of the White House. He was secretly surprised. There is a celestial system in the CIA headquarters, and there is also a celestial system in the White House. I wonder if there is a celestial system in Area 51? If there is, then celestial system is the largest artificial intelligence system in the United States. If I can find its weakness, I can get all the information about the Shepherd plan. Seeing Charlotte frowning, Liang Xiao, who was teasing him, also quieted down. The other three women also didn't disturb him. Men had their own things to do. They only needed to do one thing now, and that was to take care of their and Charlotte's children. After the ward was quiet, a thought suddenly flashed in Charlotte's mind. He then opened the stock trading software and checked his 4 stock accounts. As of yesterday's close, his stock account had 3.011 billion US dollars. The 100 million US dollars that he previously gave to Giovanna had been returned. The shares of Wanxiang Group had been restored to the issue price with his help. The US stock market was known as the most sound stock market in the world, but in the eyes of a hacker of his level, the US stock market was just his ATM. 3 billion US dollars can't shake the US stock market. At most, it can only snipe the stocks of a few US companies. It's not very meaningful. However, if I send this money out, I'm afraid it will cause panic in the CIA. A sneer appeared at the corner of Charlotte's mouth. Chapter 1100. In the dead of the night, the 4 women and children were already asleep. In order not to wake them up, Charlotte moved his office to the balcony. The hacker's computer emitted a faint blue light. The frequent operation had drained its power. It was now connected to an adapter. In the past few hours, Charlotte used the identity of Bad Boy to leave a message on the social media account of a terrorist organization, saying that he would donate a sum of money to help them purchase weapons and ammunition. In order to show his sincerity, he specially donated a few $1 million to several charity organizations and took screenshots of the donation and uploaded the proof of the donation. The donation accounts of those charity organizations were open to the public, so it was easy to check the flow of funds. In the end, the terrorist organization really sent someone a check, and they found that the donation proof uploaded by Bad Boy was real. Who would want to miss out on a rich man who could easily donate a few $1 million to a charity organization? Therefore, the official spokesperson of a terrorist organization, Executioner, and Bad Boy started chatting on social media. Executioner, why support us? Bad Boy, I'm a victim of America, just like you. My family was killed by American planes during the Gulf War. Executioner, you're Iraqi? Bad Boy, it doesn't matter where I'm from. What's important is that I want to donate $100 million to help you do something big. Executioner, $100 million? Are you sure? Bad Boy, I swear to God I'm sure. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I'm terminally ill, and I don't have much time left. Money means nothing to me. I want you to help me get revenge. Executioner, my brother will fulfill your wish. Give me your number, and I'll tell you our account number over the phone. Bad Boy, no, I've deposited the money into an offshore account. $100 million, which can be transferred at any time. I'll put the account information in an email. You can get the money once you log in. You just need to give me your phone number, and I'll email it to you. Executioner hesitated for 30 seconds, then sent a phone number. At the same time, in Langley, America, an intelligence officer quickly walked to William's office door and knocked on the door. Come in. It was William's voice. The intelligence officer pushed the door open and walked in. With an anxious expression, he said, Chief, Something has happened. What is it? A bad boy suddenly appeared. He's in contact with a terrorist organization in Syria, claiming to donate 100 million US dollars to them. This is a screenshot of the conversation between the bad boy and the spokesperson of the terrorist organization. The intelligence officer opened a folder and showed Williams a printout of the social media screenshots. Williams glanced at it. 100 million US dollars? That guy must be joking, right? Even if they really want to donate the money, they should do it face to face. Why would they talk about it on social media? The intelligence officer said, I also think it's fake, but in order to prove his sincerity, Bad Boy donated $1 million to several charity organizations in advance. I looked into it, and the donations are real. Williams's expression immediately changed. Investigate that bad boy's identity immediately. The intelligence officer said, the hacker group is already doing it, but so far we haven't found the bad boy's identity and source of funds. Williams's gaze moved to the screenshot of the social media platform again. He frowned. Bad Boy said that he will send the account information by mobile phone email. First, concentrate on finding that mobile phone number, and then crack the terrorist organization's email. As long as we get the account information, we will freeze the funds in advance. The intelligence officer said, time is limited. I'm afraid we will have to use the heavenly system. Williams nodded. The intelligence officer turned and left. A minute later, the three top hackers of the CIB followed the intelligence officer into a top-secret underground space. This was a spherical space. The walls, dome, and ground were all made of alloy materials that could resist nuclear explosion-level attacks. In the center of the spherical space was a spherical device, and a display formed its shell. Each display showed different content, including the situation around the White House, the situation around the Pentagon, the military, the CIB headquarters in Langley, the military port, Area 51. Almost all important places and institutions in the United States were under its surveillance and protection. It was the heavenly system. The three top hackers of the CIB came to the console of the heavenly system, entered the password, and then entered working mode. Williams also came. In the face of such a thing, he could not stay in his office. The three top hackers of the CIB were very fast. The 3D projection interface in front of the console constantly flashed with instructions and the results of the execution of the instructions. A minute later, an artificially synthesized woman's voice sounded in the spherical space. Target identity confirmed. Omar Ben. Found that Omar used a telecommunications service operator. Obtained the authority of the telecommunications operator. Intercepted the text message content. Soon, the content of an email appeared in the 3D projection interface. That guy's brain must have been muddled by the $100 million. He actually gave his mobile phone number to that bad boy. The intelligence officer sneered. Now we only need to enter the email to find that account. And then we only need to lock onto that bad boy. We will catch him, no matter which country he is from. Williams was silent for a moment and said, I still feel that something is wrong. This is too easy, and the amount is too large. That bad boy can casually donate millions of dollars to charity, so his funds must not be a problem, the intelligence officer said. My analysis is that it may be his first time dealing with a terrorist organization, and he does not know how to protect himself. Williams said, I hope so. At this time, a hacker said, Boss, the email has been encrypted, and Omar Ben could not open it. Crack it, Williams said. The three top hackers immersed themselves in their work again. At the same time, on the other side of the world, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. On the balcony, Charlotte's index finger was flying, and one command after another was born under his fingers. The mosquitoes of the summer night flew around him, but none of them landed on his skin to bite him. Under the inpatient building, an ambulance drove in from the main entrance, and the ear-piercing siren did not affect him. This was a war without the smoke of gunpowder. The heavenly system of the United States was very powerful, and it had already killed Xiaoqian. With the experience of that fight, Charlotte more or less had some experience. But even so, he still seemed to be in a very sorry state during this exchange, and there were a few times when he was almost discovered. Fortunately, this fight was different from the last time. Last time, he took the initiative to attack, but this time he was defending and the heavenly system was attacking. This was like a football game where the offense and defense were balanced. Once one side pressed on the attack, there would definitely be loopholes in the defense, and they would be counterattacked. In the world of football, the weak team would definitely adopt a defensive counterattack against the strong team. Now, Charlotte was China's Suning team, and the opponent was the universe's Balsa team. In fact, he did not only defend and counterattack, but he also dug a trap in advance, waiting for the opponent to jump into it. The trap was the email he had sent to Omar bin. It took him 3 hours to write that email. With the computing power of his brain and his hacking skills, it was self-evident what the email he spent 3 hours to write meant. The ambulance stopped in front of the inpatient department building, and the driver turned off the siren. The door opened, and 4 paramedics carried a stretcher out of the car. A wounded person lying on the stretcher was covered in blood and looked very bad. The 4 paramedics carried the stretcher into the inpatient department, and the ambulance stopped in a parking space on the side of the road. The driver sitting in the driver's seat lit a cigarette, then looked up at the inpatient department building, but he could not see Charlotte on the balcony on the top floor. Langley, United States, CIA headquarters. Success, a hacker said excitedly. The heavenly system cracked the other party's email. As soon as his voice fell, a paragraph of text suddenly appeared on the 3D projection in front of the control desk. There was indeed an offshore account registered in Switzerland, as well as the login password and the password for the transfer. Call the bank immediately and freeze this account. Also, ask them to provide the registration information for this account. Williams said. This result made him slightly relieved. Wait, a hacker suddenly said. There's a problem with the funds in this account. What's the problem? Williams and the intelligence officer said the same thing almost at the same time. The hacker who found the problem did not speak because the result had already been displayed on the 3D projection interface. There was only $5 in the account. Not 100 million US dollars, only $5. This was the money that the bad boy donated to the terrorist organization. At this moment, the 3D interface suddenly twisted and the picture was very unstable. Not only the 3D projection interface, but even the display on the ball's shell showed the same situation. The display representing Area 51, in particular, even turned black. Williams suddenly shouted, this is a trap. The 3 top hackers responded quickly, and the sound of typing on the keyboard sounded nonstop in the spherical space. The intelligence officer broke out in a cold sweat and did not dare to say a word. 30 seconds later, everything returned to normal. The synthetic female voice of the heavenly system sounded again. The system has been dormant for 29 seconds and has now recovered. The recovery progress is 100%. No traces of attack found this. The intelligence officer finally dared to speak. What the hell is going on? Williams glared at the intelligence officer. I'll give you 5 hours to find out the identity of the bad boy. If you can't do it, then go to the streets and issue a ticket. The intelligence officer suddenly froze on the spot. On the other side of the world, China capital, Army hospital. Done. A smile finally appeared on Charlotte's face. He tapped the enter key with his right index finger, and a new email was sent out. In the desert on the border between Syria and Iraq, in a tent. He sent another email with a new login password and transfer password in it. Aha, I'm going in. A strong man with a headscarf and a beard said excitedly. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Someone outside the tent fired a gun in celebration. $5. It was still the voice of the bearded man with a headscarf, full of horror. Bang, bang, bang. Duh. There was another gunshot outside the tent, but there were more people roaring. Bad boy, kill him. Who is he? Who knows who he is? Bang, bang, bang. Duh. Chapter 1101. 29 seconds was a very short amount of time. However, in that short amount of time, Charlotte had already gotten what he wanted. When the tension system fell into his carefully designed trap and went into hibernation mode for 29 seconds, he obtained the highest level of access to the system and entered Area 51. Area 51 was very big, and 29 seconds was not enough. However, he had a specific target in mind, and that was the AE Research Center in Area 51. 29 seconds was not enough to attack Area 51 and paralyze its central system. 29 seconds was also not enough to obtain all the secrets of Area 51. However, 29 seconds was more than enough for him to steal a document. Project Shepherd. It was now in Charlotte's hands. The ward was quiet. The 4 women and the children were sleeping soundly. The women and children brought peace to the room and the most authentic atmosphere of life. It was this peaceful and authentic atmosphere of life that made Xia Lei relax. After he read the shepherd's plan, he felt a sense of relief. After reading the shepherd's plan, Xia Lei made a decision. The trip to Las Vegas was a must. Longbing opened her eyes and whispered, "It's already so late. Why aren't you sleeping? Why don't you squeeze into my bed?" "They prepared a bed for me. I need to rest on that bed," Charlotte said. "I want you to sleep next to me," Longbing said. Charlotte smiled. "Then I'll sleep next to you." He walked over and kissed Longbing's forehead. Liang Xiao, who was lying on the other bed, opened her eyes. "This is a ward. Are you sure you want to do this?" Longbing rolled her eyes at Liang Xiao. "I just wanted to sleep with me for a while." "What are you thinking?" Liang Xiao smiled. Go to sleep. If you wake them up, you won't be able to sleep even if you want to." Charlotte whispered, "Xiao, I'll come over later." Liang Xiao nodded gently. She had been waiting for this sentence. Charlotte uncovered Longbing's quilt. Longbing moved aside a little to make room for him. But just as Charlotte was about to climb onto the bed, his ears suddenly caught a slight sound. It was the sound of rubber wheels rolling over the floor tiles. It was almost inaudible and disappeared in an instant, but it still couldn't escape his ears. The sound of the wheels suddenly disappeared. This alerted Charlotte. His ears twitched as he continued to listen to the sounds coming from the outside. After his right eye evolved, his ears also showed signs of evolution during his last trip to Israel. Ever since his ears showed signs of evolution, he rarely used the ability of his ears. On one hand, his eyes were too powerful. He was used to using his eyes, so when he encountered a problem, he would always use his eyes to solve the problem instead of his ears. Most of the time, he actually neglected the ability of his ears. Now, in the extremely quiet hospital environment, the sound in the corridor outside the door was magnified by his ears. The benefits of his super hearing were also reflected. Almost at the moment when he caught the sound, the relevant information appeared in his mind. The surgical cart, the footsteps of 4 people, and the breathing of 5 people. When the information appeared in his mind, the image of 4 medical staff pushing a surgical cart through the corridor appeared in his mind. In the hospital, it was very normal for medical staff to push a patient into the operating room for surgery. It could happen almost at any time, so no one would find it strange. However, Charlotte smelled a hint of something unusual from the sound he heard. There was even a hint of danger. His left and right eyes instantly switched to X-ray and scanning mode, and the wall that blocked his line of sight silently disappeared from his field of vision. What he saw was 4 medical staff pushing a surgical cart from the direction of the elevator shaft. Their footsteps were very light, almost silent. The 2 medical staff walking in front carried the edge of the surgical cart, while the 2 medical staff walking behind carried the cart. The 4 people's movements were very uniform, so the wheels of the surgical cart were almost suspended in the air. Occasionally, they would touch the ground and make a slight sound. The person lying on the surgical cart was covered in blood, but his eyes were wide open. He looked very nervous. There was also a very obvious fierce light in his eyes, which gave people a very dangerous feeling. Charlotte increased the intensity of his X-ray and scanning to investigate the 5 people. The investigation made him nervous. All 5 of them were armed with guns and explosive devices. If it wasn't for his hearing that there was something wrong with the sound in the corridor, Even if he used his X-ray vision to see the situation in the corridor, he might have carelessly thought that it was really 4 medical staff and a patient who needed emergency surgery, because such a situation was simply too normal in the hospital. Sometimes, people would be deceived by their own eyes, and this situation almost happened to him. Xiaolei straightened his body and lowered his voice. "Get up quick! There's a killer." Long Bing and Liang Xiao were stunned, but it only took a second for them to climb out of the bed. "Tell Fan Fan and Rui to hide in the bathroom. Take the children with you." Charlotte quickly made the arrangements. "But you..." Liang Xiao was very worried. "Go." Charlotte's tone was very strict. Long Bing and Liang Xiao carried their children. Then, one of them went to wake up Jiang Rui, and the other went to wake up Fan Fan. What happened? Fan Fan, who was woken up, did not know what had happened, but before she could finish her words, Liang Xiao, who woke her up, covered her mouth. "There's a killer. Take the children and follow me to the bathroom," Liang Xiao said in her ear. On the other side, Long Bing and Jiang Rui were in the same situation. Just as the 4 women and children retreated to the bathroom, Charlotte pressed the pager and came to the door. He held a Viper pistol and a military knife in his hand. When they were ready to fight, the 5 killers had already arrived at the door of the ward. At the same time, a nurse came out of the nurse's station and walked over. The appearance of a nurse made the 5 killers pause. They obviously did not expect such a situation. Behind the door, Charlotte had already pointed the gun at the head of the gunman lying on the operating cart. "Doctor," the nurse came out of the nurse's station and asked curiously, "This floor is the gynecology and obstetrics department. Are you in the wrong place?" None of the 5 assassins spoke. One of the assassins at the back reached behind his waist and pulled out a pistol with a silencer. But just as he was about to shoot the nurse, a gunshot suddenly came from behind the door. The killer lying on the operating cart was suddenly shot in the head. Charlotte did not shoot the target standing, but the one lying down. That was because the guy lying down was actually a human bomb. For him, the person lying on the operating cart was the biggest threat. Because the guy's body was wrapped with an explosive device, he had to kill the enemy's human bomb first. After the gunshot, the remaining 4 killers immediately left the operating cart and hid on both sides of the door. 2 of them pulled out August assault rifles from their white coats and fired wildly at the door of the ward. "Ah!" The nurse screamed and turned to run. "Murder!" Bang! One of the killers with a pistol fired at the nurse. The nurse was shot in the back and fell to the ground. Blood gushed out from the wound and dyed the nurse's uniform red in the blink of an eye. Da-da-da, da-da-da. The sound of gunshots was deafening, and the wooden door was smashed into pieces. The bullets that flew out from the muzzle flew and refracted randomly in the ward, shattering wherever they hit. The beds where the 4 women were lying were not spared either. Almost every bed was hit by the bullets, and white cotton fluff flew around in the air. "Break the door open," one of the gunmen said. He was actually speaking in Japanese. The killer with the pistol grabbed the operating cart's handle, adjusted the cart's direction, and slammed it into the dilapidated door of the ward. Bang! Another gunshot came from the door. The killer who was pushing the cart was shot in the right knee. He staggered and knelt on the ground. The cart in his hand lost its aim and almost hit the killer beside the door. A second later, he got up. He roared and pushed the cart toward the door of the ward again. Although the bomb was dead, the explosive device on the bomb was still there. As long as he could push the cart into the ward and detonate it, their mission would be completed. Bang! Another bullet flew out from behind the dilapidated door. This time, the target was still him. He felt a sharp pain in his left leg, and his only left leg was hit in the knee. He lost control of his body again and fell to the ground. "Bastard!" The gunman beside the door roared. He rushed out from behind the wall and slammed his shoulder into the door. Bang! A bullet flew out from behind the door and pierced his forehead. However, his body still hit the door due to the inertia. Crash! The impact of the dead assassin was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. The moment his body hit the door, the entire door collapsed with a loud bang. One of the killers pushed the operating cart into the ward. Put down your weapons and surrender. Otherwise, we'll kill you. A special forces captain suddenly appeared at the stairs and shouted, "Get in." The killer with the August turned around and fired at the special forces soldiers who came to the stairs to provide support. A hail of bullets was fired. The special forces soldiers who had just arrived at the stairs were pushed back. Crash! The glass shattered. A sniper rifle bullet suddenly flew in from a window in the stairwell and hit the forehead of the killer who was shooting wildly with the August assault rifle. Blood bloomed, and there was one more corpse on the ground. In the blink of an eye, only 2 of the 5 killers were left. One was pushing the cart, and the other was actually using his body to block the sniper and the special forces soldiers at the stairs. He wanted to use his life to exchange for a chance to blow up the ward for his partner. However, that was only his wishful thinking. Just as he cut to the back of his partner, the special forces captain at the stairs suddenly rushed out. His body was still moving in the air, but the pistol in his hand had already fired 3 shots. Bang! 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 3 shots, 3 bullets. 2 of them hit the killer's abdomen, and 1 hit the idiot's heart. The special forces captain's body fell to the ground. The last killer, pushing the cart, finally rushed into the ward with the cart. Chapter 11:02. The assassin who was shot in both legs smiled. Just as his companion pushed the surgical cart into the ward, a smile appeared on his face. In his imagination, there would be an earth-shattering explosion in the next second, and all the targets that needed to be killed would be turned into pieces of minced meat in the explosion. Bang! A gunshot rang out. This was his last fantasy. The one who killed him was a special forces soldier who had just rushed out of the staircase. In the ward. Ah! A cold silver light suddenly flashed. Before he could even feel the pain, the assassin who was about to self-destruct saw his thumb leave his palm. In the air, his body spun 360 degrees and then fell to the ground. Blood gushed out from the cut on his thumb. The killer, who was ready to self-destruct, subconsciously pressed the button of the detonator with his index finger. However, another cold silver light flashed, and his index finger also left his palm, flying freely in the air. He was so anxious that he didn't even have time to check where his target was in the room. But no matter how anxious he was, no matter how much effort he put in, he was still one step too late. When his index finger was chopped off, he finally saw the person who had chopped off 2 of his fingers, Charlotte. That good-looking face was filled with a ferocious expression, like a bloodthirsty beast. The last killer slammed the controller into his chest. Whoosh! It was another silver-cold light. It was extremely fast and ruthless. Before the last assassin could hit his chest with the detonator, his right palm was chopped off. Charlotte reached out and caught the severed hand that was still bleeding. He then kicked the operating cart. The surgical cart drove out of the ward and only stopped when it hit the wall. There was no explosion because the detonator was in Charlotte's hands, and he was holding it tightly. His family of 8 was hiding in the bathroom of the ward, so he had to be careful not to make even the slightest mistake. The last assassin took a step back, his body suddenly falling to the ground. His remaining left hand grabbed an August assault rifle that had fallen to the ground. Charlotte took a step forward and slashed again. The last killer's left index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and little finger were chopped off. Blood splattered and dyed Charlotte's pants red. Ah! Charlotte took a step forward and slashed again. The last killer's thumb also fell to the ground. This time, the assassin did not scream. Instead, his vision turned black and he fainted. A group of Special Forces soldiers rushed into the ward and stared dumbfoundedly at Charlotte, who was covered in blood, and the corpse lying on the ground. "Mr. Xiaoyu, are you all right?" The captain of the Special Forces said cautiously. "What are you doing?" Charlotte roared. "How did these killers sneak in?" The captain of the Special Forces hesitated. Scram! Charlotte was furious. He was angry not because someone had come to assassinate him, but because his wife and child were in this ward. The group of Special Forces soldiers left the ward. "Call the doctor and save this guy," Charlotte said angrily. "Also, there's an explosive device in the ambulance. Push it away immediately." Two Special Forces soldiers carried the killer whose hands had been chopped off. The captain of the Special Forces personally pushed the ambulance to the elevator, and someone went to check on the nurse's condition. "She's still alive. Doctor, doctor." The Special Forces soldier who checked on the nurse's condition shouted. It was only then that Charlotte breathed a sigh of relief. He removed the explosive device from the severed hand. Liang Xiao, Fan Fan, Long Bing, and Jiang Rui came out of the bathroom. The children had long since woken up, but none of them were crying. The four children looked at their father. The corpse, debris, and blood did not affect them at all. "Hubby, are you okay?" Liang Xiao walked over. If it wasn't for the children, she would have gone to hug Charlotte. Long Bing, Jiang Rui, and Fan Fan also walked over. Long Bing's face was normal, but Fan Fan and Jiang Rui's faces were pale. They were obviously frightened. They couldn't hug Charlotte, but they still stayed close to him. Only he could give them a sense of security. Charlotte reached out and hugged his women and children. Although he couldn't hug them all, he still wanted to hug them. He had never been so afraid of losing them. "It's okay, it's okay. The crisis is over. I didn't scare you, did I?" Charlotte comforted his women. "We're fine. Are you hurt?" Fan Fan asked nervously. "I'm fine," Charlotte said. "You're covered in blood. How can you say you're fine? I'll call the doctor to check you." Jiang Rui said. Charlotte pulled her back. "I'm really fine. It's someone else's blood on me." After a pause, he said, "I'll call Giovanna and the others to pick you up. We won't stay in this hospital anymore. We'll go back to recuperate." The four women agreed. After what had happened, they definitely didn't want to stay in this place anymore. Although there were special forces protecting this place, the security level was obviously not as high as that of the Ping and residence and the headquarters of the Rema Group. Charlotte called Giovanna and said, "They'll come pick you up soon. I'll go see the survivor. I want to know who sent them." "Okay, be careful," Long Bing said. Charlotte left the ward and was led to an operating room by a Special Forces soldier. A doctor and two nurses were saving the killer whose hands had been cut off. The killer was in shock because of losing too much, and a nurse was giving him a blood transfusion. The doctor was ligating the blood vessels on his broken wrist to stop the blood loss. "Doctor, when will he wake up?" Charlotte asked. The doctor who was performing the operation looked back and found it was Charlotte. He then said, "Mr. Xia, he's in shock because of losing too much blood. We're giving him a blood transfusion now. He'll probably wake up an hour after the operation." "I can't wait that long. Can you wake him up?" Charlotte said. "Injecting him with epinephrine can wake him up, but it's very dangerous," the doctor said. Charlotte said, "This is just a beast. If he's dead, then he's dead. Why are you worried about him? Give him epinephrine." "This." The doctor looked a little embarrassed. "Give him an injection." Charlotte roared at the doctor. What happened tonight made him unable to calm down. He rarely lost control of his emotions when he was unhappy. "Mr. Xia, I understand your feelings, but I still have to ask for instructions. Please wait a moment." The doctor then said, "Little Li, you go and call the dean over." Xia Lei was seething with rage in his heart, but he still endured it. The doctor had his own duties. If he rashly injected the killer with epinephrine and killed him, he would be responsible. The nurse went to call the dean over. The dean was a man in his early 50s. He was fat and looked like a leader at first glance. However, a leader of his level was not in front of Charlotte. "Mr. Xia, I'm really sorry. It's my dereliction of duty. Such a thing happened." The dean apologized to Charlotte as soon as he came. He looked very sincere. Charlotte said, "No need to apologize. I suspect that someone is a spy. I want to interrogate this killer. Ask your people to give him epinephrine and wake him up. If he dies, I'll be responsible." "This." The dean still had a troubled look on his face. Charlotte suddenly became angry. "Are you the spy?" Mr. Xia, you can't say that. Someone will die." The dean was shocked and then said, "Give him epinephrine and give him to Mr. Xia for interrogation." The doctor injected the killer with epinephrine. "Mr. Xia, you can interrogate him however you want. It's none of my business. I'm gonna do something. The dean quickly slipped away. In fact, from the dean's point of view, offending Charlotte was actually a small matter. But if he offended Charlotte's wife, Fan, it would be a big deal. Since the couple couldn't afford to offend each other, why not hide away? Who cares about human lives or not? The dean slipped away, and the doctor simply tied the killer's broken wrist with a rope. Mr. Xiao, I'll come back and see after you finish the interrogation. After that, he slipped away. Only Charlotte and the killer were left in the operating room. The extremely quiet environment was filled with the smell of disinfectant, which made people very uncomfortable. Oh, the epinephrine worked, and the killer with a broken wrist woke up. He subconsciously climbed up, but because his body lost too much blood and was weak, he couldn't get up. I'll answer a few simple questions. If you cooperate, I'll let the doctor continue to operate on you. Charlotte said coldly in Japanese, if you don't cooperate, you'll die. I have the means to make you regret coming to this world. The killer looked at Charlotte and was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and spat a mouthful of blood at Charlotte. Charlotte dodged, grabbed a scalpel from the tool tray, and stabbed the killer's broken right wrist. Ah, the killer screamed, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Charlotte's wrist moved up, and the sharp scalpel suddenly cut the killer's flesh. A stream of blood came out again. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me, are you from the Hattori family? While asking, Charlotte's left and right eyes instantly switched to the X-ray and scanning mode, and his line of sight went straight to the killer's heart. The killer avoided Charlotte's aggressive gaze, and his heartbeat sped up. However, on the surface, he appeared very calm, and he didn't say a word. Although he didn't say a word, Charlotte actually got the answer. These killers were from the Hattori family, and this made him confused. Hattori Masao and my Hattori both died under the guns of Qianjun. Almost all the core members of the Hattori family are dead. How could there be such a large-scale operation? Could it be that Hattori Masao didn't die? Could it be that my Hattori didn't die? But how could there be such a mistake in the operation of Qianjun? After a moment of silence, Charlotte probed, did Hattori Masao send you? The killer still didn't say a word, and even a hint of a contemptuous smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. His heartbeat also returned to normal. Charlotte probed again. Did my Hattori send you? The killer still didn't say a word, but the trace of imperceptible contempt at the corner of his mouth disappeared. When Charlotte mentioned the name my Hattori, his heart obviously sped up. Charlotte was taken aback, and he thought to himself, could it be that my Hattori really didn't die? How is that possible? You can come in. Is there someone to meet you? Charlotte asked a third question. Humph. It's just a hospital. Is it difficult for us to sneak in? The killer said in Japanese. Charlotte had been looking at the condition of the killer's heart. When he said this, his heartbeat was normal, and the possibility of him lying was not high. You will die sooner or later. The killer said hatefully. You have angered the samurai world of our Yamato nation. Is that so? Charlotte sneered, and then reached out to close the blood transfusion tube. His movements were very slow, and then his voice was also very slow. Are you also a samurai? I am killing you. What do you do to me? Boom! An earth-shattering explosion suddenly came from outside the inpatient department. Chapter 1103. The violent explosion shook the windows of the inpatient building, and the glass windows of the operating room buzzed. Flames rose to the sky, reflecting the night sky red. Charlotte quickly walked to the window and looked down. It wasn't the surgical vehicle that exploded, but the ambulance. There were many Special Forces soldiers lying on the ground next to the ambulance. Some of them were wailing in pain, and it was obvious that they were injured. At a glance, there was another person in the ambulance that sent the killer here. After being surrounded by the Special Forces, he detonated the explosive device hidden in the car. Committing suicide at the slightest disagreement was really the style of the Japanese. Charlotte moved away from the window and returned to the side of the hospital bed. The assassin lying on the sickbed looked at Xia Lei with eyes full of hatred. Charlotte said, "Let me guess, you made a fake emergency call. When the hospital's ambulance went to pick up the patient, you killed the hospital's medical staff. Then you pretended to be the hospital's medical staff and drove the hospital's ambulance to the hospital. There was a travel record at the hospital's gate, but it became your excuse to sneak in. The guards and the special forces wouldn't carefully check the ambulance that was racing against time. Am I right?" "You're smart," the killer said. He didn't admit it, but his words had already given the answer. "My Hattori is still alive," Charlotte said. The killer closed his mouth again and didn't say a word. Charlotte smiled. "Your eyes and your heart have told me that my guess is also right. Tell me where she is now, and I'll ask the doctor to come back and treat you. You're bleeding, and you don't have much blood left." The killer sneered. "Everyone who came here tonight was prepared to die. We didn't expect to leave here alive after killing you and your woman and child. You want to threaten me with death? Save your strength." Charlotte shrugged. "Well, you made your choice and are ready to face death. Let me make your death a little more interesting." His tone was light, but full of threat. The assassin tensed up. Charlotte picked up the syringe that had been injected with epinephrine and inserted it into the killer's chest. "There's no liquid in this syringe, but there's a tube of air. I will inject it into your chest. They will form a pneumothorax and press on your lungs. Your breathing will become more and more difficult. You can't help but scratch at your throat and chest, but you don't have fingers. You will feel more and more uncomfortable, and finally, you will slowly die. This process will be very painful. Are you ready to accept it?" The assassin's breathing suddenly quickened. He could accept death from excessive blood loss, or even death from a single stab or a single shot, but he absolutely could not accept such a death. Charlotte pressed his thumb on the end of the syringe down bit by bit. "This is your last chance. Either you die in agony, or you receive treatment and live." Huff. Because of nervousness, Sha panted heavily. Charlotte continued to press his thumb down on the end of the syringe. "What did my Hattori give you? You actually protect her like this? You better tell me before I finish. When I finish the injection, you can go back on your words. I can't extract the air for you." Huff. "She." Charlotte stopped pressing down with his thumb. "Where is she?" "America. Las Vegas." The assassin finally collapsed under the pressure. Charlotte paused for a moment and suddenly injected the remaining air in the syringe into the assassin's chest. "You." The assassin couldn't believe his eyes. His heart was filled with resentment and regret. But all these emotions couldn't change what was about to happen. Charlotte said lightly, "You can come to kill me, but you can't even let my wife and child go. I will not show you any mercy. No matter who comes, I will kill him like I killed you." Huff, huff, cough. The assassin lying on the operating table began to pant. He wanted to use his hands to grab the air, but both of his hands had no fingers. Because of the excessive blood loss, he was so weak that he couldn't even lift his hands. Charlotte looked at him quietly. His eyes were terrifyingly cold. 5 minutes later, Charlotte left. The assassin lying on the operating table had stopped struggling. His death was very painful. What made it even more painful was that the person he wanted to kill was standing next to him, watching him die slowly like watching a movie. In the corridor, several medical staff came to greet him. "Mr. Xia, how is he?" asked the doctor who had operated on the assassin. Charlotte said, "He's dead." "Dead? Dead? That's good. We don't have to waste resources to save him." The doctor flattered. Charlotte smiled and left. When he came to the hall of the inpatient department, Charlotte saw his 4 female knights, a large group of brothers and sisters from the Rescue Society, as well as Akiko, Tsukino, Urdamu, Yelena, and Angumi Khan. His woman was being protected by them. Even the special forces couldn't get close to her. In fact, if he had used his own armed forces to protect his woman and children, what happened tonight might have been strangled before it broke out. However, the armed forces of the state intervened to protect him. It was inconvenient for him to use his own armed forces, so he didn't bring his men. After such a thing happened, he secretly made a decision in his heart. In the future, no matter how many people the state sent to protect his woman and children, he would use his own armed forces. Giovanna came up to him and asked, Boss, are you all right? Charlotte said, I'm fine. Have you arranged it? Giovanna said, it's all arranged. We're just waiting for you to say the word, and then we'll go home. At this time, Akiko Tsukino came over. Charlotte knew that she had something to say, so he said to Giovanna, wait a few more minutes. Giovanna nodded and returned to her team. Akiko Tsukino walked to Charlotte's side and lowered her voice. I just looked at the bodies. Their identities are very complicated. Charlotte was a little surprised. What do you mean? Akiko Tsukino said, one is a ninja of Hatano Ryu, one is a ninja of Koga Ryu, and the other two are from the Hattori family. Charlotte suddenly remembered the words of the killer he had killed. You will die sooner or later. You have angered the samurai world of our nation. Akiko Tsukino was also a ninja of Iga Ryu. She naturally had a way to identify those people. It was also her identification that made Charlotte's mood become heavy. This time, he was not facing a Hattori family, but the entire samurai world of Japan. Akiko Tsukino sighed. I really don't know what kind of charm the Hattori family has to be able to persuade so many people to work for it. Charlotte lowered his voice. My Hattori is still alive. Sun Jun failed. This. How is that possible? Akiko Tsukino looked very surprised. Charlotte said, it is very likely that he was deceived by his own eyes. We will talk about the specific situation after seeing Sinjun. There is another bad situation, Akiko Tsukino said. What? Akiko Tsukino handed a piece of charred metal to Charlotte. Charlotte saw that it was a piece of shuriken. But apart from this, he could not see anything else. Akiko Tsukino smiled bitterly. This is our Iga clan's shuriken. I found it next to the ambulance. The man had been blown to pieces and could not be identified, but I recognized the shuriken. His name is Watanabe Haishu, a disciple of my master Kenichi Yagyu. Charlotte frowned. You mean that your master is also working for the Hattori family? Akiko Tsukino said, that's not right. My judgment is that the Hattori family used the fate of Japan and the future of the nation as an excuse to persuade the samurai world. Now, the samurai world of Japan regards you as an enemy of Japan, and they will do anything to assassinate you. The samurai world of Japan has a tradition of loyalty to the Mikado and the Yamato nation since ancient times. They are not afraid of death, and they regard honor above life. You threaten the national interests of Japan and the future of the Yamato nation. This reason is enough to unite them and then assassinate you. Charlotte's heart was very heavy. This was a very bad situation. Ninjas were best at lurking and assassinating. Now that all the ninjas in Japan regarded him as an enemy, it meant that tonight's assassination would not be the last. Akiko, after hesitating for a moment, Charlotte said, you mentioned the Iga clan and your master. If your master Yagyu Kenichi comes to kill me, what will you do? Akiko Tsukino was stunned for a moment and did not speak. This was not a simple question for her, and she could not give an answer at once. Tell me. Charlotte stared at Akiko Tsukino. Akiko Tsukino said softly, I'm thinking about this. How about this? When you go back, come to the back mountain to find me, and I will give you an answer. Charlotte nodded. Well, I will come to the back mountain to find you. But can you tell me, if you choose your master, will you leave me and be my enemy? Akiko Tsukino said, don't worry, give me some time. I'll go back first. I need a quiet environment to think. Charlotte nodded and watched Akiko Tsukino leave. His heart was in a mess, and his thoughts were in a mess. Akiko Tsukino was also a samurai, a very traditional samurai. She loved Japan, and she also loved her people. Now, her master Yagyu Kenichi had become Charlotte's enemy, and she needed to make a choice between the two. If she chose him, she would be her enemy with her master Yagyu Kenichi, and they would even fight on the battlefield. If she chose Yagyu Kenichi, she would be his enemy. Xia Chang's kindness, her feelings for him, and the unforgettable experiences between them. How could she cut all of this off? Let's go back, said Charlotte. He was tired, and he wanted a rest. A large group of people left the inpatient department hall. The inpatient department building was full of cars. They were not cars, but scavenger IFVs transferred from Rema Group. There was also a machine gunner on each vehicle, and they were in a quasi-combat state, ready to fire at any time. Liang Xiao and Long Bing entered a vehicle with their children, while Fan Fan and Jiang Rui also entered a vehicle with their children. Just as Charlotte didn't know whether to enter the vehicle where Liang Xiao and Long Bing were, or the vehicle where Fan Fan and Jiang Rui were, a motorcade rushed over. The people from 101 innings had arrived. Tang Yuyan had arrived. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Giovanna, take my wife and children back first. I'll deal with it. Giovanna nodded and waved her hand. The convoy of vehicles moved forward slowly, and the scene was spectacular. Chapter 1104. Under the night sky, the street lights were cold. Many moths kept hitting the lights, continuing the ancient tradition of moths flying into the fire. On the ground, there were moths' bodies. Are you okay? Under the street lights, Tang Yin's voice was very gentle. I'm fine, Charlotte said, and then said, pay more attention to the people coming from Japan in the future. Tang Yuyin said, are you worried that there will be more killers coming from Japan? Charlotte nodded. I interrogated a killer. He said that the samurai world in Japan now regards me as an enemy and wants to assassinate me. Not only me, but my children have also become their targets. Tang Yuyin kicked the pole of the streetlight. She looked very angry. Damn it, they don't even let go of the children. Are they still human? Charlotte said, my children have inherited my genes. Japan also regards my children as a threat. This assassination was carried out by the Hattori family. My Hattori is not dead. She's not dead? Tang Yuyin was very surprised. Is the information we got wrong? Charlotte nodded. Can you help me check the movements of the Hattori family? Tang Yuyin said, your business is my business. Don't worry, I will investigate this matter. As long as I find out who in the Hattori family is involved in this matter, I will start the elimination plan. There were also people who specialized in doing the dirty work in 101 innings. If the samurai could come to China to carry out suicide attacks, the killers in 101 innings could also make the people who needed to be responsible. It was impolite not to reciprocate. Tang Yuyin was the director of 101 innings. She could do what she said. Thank you. I have told you the situation. It's time for me to go back. And the children need me at this time, said Charlotte. Tang Yuyin said faintly, why thank me? Charlotte avoided her sad eyes and looked up at the night sky. A bright full moon hung in the blue and black sky, and there were countless stars in the distance. They are distant, they are mysterious. Humans fought and schemed on this small planet, but in this vast starry sky, they were insignificant. Not to mention humans, even Earth was just a grain of sand in the universe. This sudden thought and feeling was really strange. There was a hint of sudden enlightenment, just like the epiphany of Buddhism. But at this moment, Tang Yuyin suddenly stepped forward and hugged Charlotte. She hugged him tightly, as if she was afraid that he would leave her. Her firm and full chest pressed against his chest, bringing a soft and wonderful feeling. Charlotte's mind was also pulled back from the distant starry sky. He looked at the beautiful face in front of him, but he didn't know what to say to her. I count the days every day. I really want it to be 2 years from now. Tang Yuyin's voice was filled with longing and sadness. Why did you make me wait for so long? Do you know how precious a woman's most beautiful age is? I want to give you everything in my best time, but you make me wait for 2 years. How can you be so cruel? Charlotte's heart melted. He wanted to tell her the truth, but he knew that once he said the truth, Tang Yuyin's heart would be broken. He made her wait for him for 2 years because he believed that after 2 years, he would no longer be in this world. He would either die in the hands of the black-robed man or enter the ancient alloy box world and never return. He made her wait for him for 2 years. When he said this, he never thought about being with her. That promise was actually a lie with a knife hidden in it. Now that he said it, Tang Yuyin would be stabbed in the back. 2 years later, even if he didn't say it, Tang Yuyin would still be stabbed in the back. He suddenly felt sorry for her, a woman who was bound by an ancient family. Others envied her family background, envied her career, but who knew that she didn't even have the right to pursue her own happiness, who knew that the life she wanted the most was to be an ordinary, simple woman. Say something, why? Tang Yuyin's eyes were filled with tears. Charlotte still couldn't say it. Tang Yuyin suddenly pushed Charlotte away. Are you lying to me? You must be lying to me, right? You never wanted to be with me, so that's why you gave me that kind of promise, right? After all, she was an extremely intelligent woman. Moreover, women always had a strange sixth sense. Tears flowed out of her eyes. She was already so heartbroken before she was stabbed. What would she do if she knew the truth? Charlotte didn't dare to believe it. He suddenly grabbed her hand, pulled her into his arms, and then kissed her cherry lips. Woo! Tang Yuyin moaned and closed her eyes. At this moment, the answer wasn't important. Charlotte also seemed to untie the knot in his heart at that moment. He only had a little time left, so why should he care so much? Why should he hurt a heart that loved him so deeply? After a long time, Charlotte and Tang Yuyin separated. Tang Yuyin's jade dimples were filled with tears, but there was a happy and sweet smile on her lips. This was the first time Charlotte had taken the initiative to kiss her. For a woman, this was as important as a man's first time doing that kind of thing. Charlotte said, I should go back. Tang Yuyin hesitated for a moment. Do you really want me to wait for you for another 2 years? After 2 years, I may not be so beautiful anymore. Do you have the heart to wait for me? This was already the biggest hint a woman like her could give. Charlotte smiled. If you don't mind my family being too big, you can move in with us. You? Tang Yuyin suddenly called out and got into Charlotte's arms. Is what you said true? You could start with Long Bing. She knows you best and has been your sister for many years. Charlotte said, Are you teaching me what to do? Tang Yuyin smiled. I don't need you to teach me this. I'm just worried about Fan Fan and Liang Xiao. They are prejudiced against me. Charlotte said, You saved them and almost died. They are actually soft-hearted. You can start with their children. Just say that you saved their children and you are destined to be their godmother. They will agree. When you get along well with them, you can ask them again. They will agree. Haha, you are so smart. Tang Yuyin smiled, even more happily. Charlotte was silent for a moment and then said, What I just said is actually the easiest, because I know they will accept you. The hardest part is you. Do you know what I'm saying? Tang Yuyin's face suddenly darkened. Charlotte said, I know what your grandfather, your parents, and your brother are thinking. I will only marry you, not the Tang family. I know it's unfair for you to make such a choice, but I still want you to make a choice. Tang Yuyin gently bit her lip and then nodded. Charlotte said, I will be away for a period of time, about half a month to a month. I hope you will have solved these 2 problems when I come back. Where are you going? What for? Charlotte said, To do what I should do. Don't worry about it. But Tang Yuyin wanted to say something, but stopped. Charlotte pulled her into his arms and pinched her pert, but with one hand. He said with a smile, Don't worry. You are so beautiful. I don't want to die without tasting you. Tang Yuyin's cheeks slightly blushed. Charlotte let go of her and turned to walk to the Night 15 parked in the parking lot. Tang Yuyin watched him leave. 2 tears rolled down her eyes again, but this time they were tears of joy. Half an hour later, Charlotte returned to the Peace residence. His women and children were already asleep. After all, they had just given birth and were weak. Coupled with the shock, they naturally wanted to sleep after returning home to relax. Charlotte did not wake them up. Instead, he went out through the back door and walked into the forest. Akiko Tsukino said that he would go to the mountain to find her, and he had to get an answer from her. The forest was not quiet. The sound of the wind and the chirping of birds came from all corners of the forest. Charlotte's ears received these sounds, and the corresponding information appeared in his brain. Left, 8 o'clock direction, 15 meters, 2 crickets. Right, 3 o'clock direction, a frog. Front, 12 o'clock direction, 37. 9 meters, an owl. He did not deliberately look at these with his eyes. This information made him realize a problem, and that was that his ears were getting more and more mature, and his hearing was getting stronger and stronger. He followed the path in the forest and climbed a hillside. After walking for about 100 meters, a cliff appeared in his sight. There was a spring on the cliff. The spring water that emerged from the mouth of the spring poured down, forming a waterfall that was about 50 meters high. At the bottom of the cliff, there was also a spring pond that was formed by the mountain spring. It was not big, only about a few square meters in area. The water was about 5 meters deep, and the spring water was so clear that one could see the bottom. This place was Akiko Tsukino's favorite place. She usually practiced martial arts here. She said that she would wait for him at the back of the mountain, and Charlotte knew that it was this place. However, there was no sign of Akiko Tsukino in the open space at the bottom of the cliff or in the spring pond. This place was also filled with the chirping of insects and the sound of the night wind blowing through the forest. But when Charlotte stopped to listen, these sounds strangely disappeared. In his ears, Akiko Tsukino's little world was very quiet. Just as Charlotte stopped to stand still, he suddenly heard a strange sound. The direction of the sound came from behind him, and it was approaching him at an extremely fast speed. His mind automatically drew a dynamic picture based on the sound he heard. In that picture, a female ninja in black was approaching him. Her feet were wearing soft-soled running shoes, and her footsteps running on the grass were almost inaudible under the cover of the wind and the chirping of insects. But he still heard it. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air suddenly came from behind him. When this sound entered his ears, Charlotte's heart suddenly sank. She made a move. Did she choose her country and people, and chose her master, Yagyu Kenichi? Chapter 1105. The moment he heard the sound of something breaking through the air, Charlotte was nervous for a moment, but his brain gave him the relevant information in an instant, and his nervousness disappeared. The sound of something breaking through the air reached the back of his head in the blink of an eye. But according to the trajectory of the sound, it wasn't heading for the back of Charlotte's head, but flew forward, brushing past his cheek. Just as the object flew past Charlotte's shoulder, Charlotte reached out and grabbed the object in his hand. It wasn't a shuriken, nor was it a stone, but a bottle of sake. Charlotte glanced at the sake in his hand, then turned around, and saw Akiko Tsukino standing not far behind him. Wearing a white short-sleeved shirt, a black knee-length skirt, and a pair of crystal-clear feet, Akiko Tsukino entered Charlotte's field of vision. She was pure, like a high school girl, full of literary and fresh flavor. Not some murderous ninja at all. Under the moonlight, her breasts were full and firm, and her buttocks were plump and perky. Coupled with her slender and soft waist, she had a unique and seductive flavor. However, Charlotte didn't have the slightest bit of appreciation. "Did you prepare the sake to say goodbye to me?" Charlotte said. His heart was very heavy. Akiko Tsukino didn't answer his question. She walked towards him, brushing past him, and didn't stop until she reached the edge of the spring. She sat cross-legged on the grass, her back facing him. Charlotte sighed in his heart. There were always times in life when there was no other way, and people who wanted to leave couldn't stay no matter what. He also walked over and sat on the ground with Akiko Tsukino. He opened the bottle of sake, took a big gulp, and then handed it to Akiko Tsukino. "Aren't you afraid that I'll poison the sake?" Akiko Tsukino said. Charlotte smiled. "As long as it's the wine you give me, even if it's poisoned, I'm willing to drink it." Akiko Tsukino also took a sip of wine and then wiped the corner of her mouth with her hand. "You should suspect me and be vigilant against me. You were too careless." "Why?" Charlotte looked at her. Akiko Tsukino smiled bitterly. "I am a Japanese and a traditional samurai. My master instilled in me the ideals of loyalty to His Majesty the Emperor, sacrifice, honor, and so on. Now, the entire Japanese samurai world regards you as their enemy, and my master is also one of them. For the sake of the country, the people, and my master, I have every reason to assassinate you. Under such circumstances, poisoning is obviously the least costly option. Charlotte just smiled. Even my Hattori's poison couldn't kill him. Even if she poisoned the wine, his super immunity would detoxify it for him. With this guarantee, how could he be afraid that she would poison the wine? What's more, he believed in her. Even if she wanted to leave him, it would be a peaceful departure, and it would not develop to the extent of fighting. What are you laughing at? Akiko Tsukino asked. Charlotte said, Your wine is good. Give me some more. Akiko Tsukino handed the sake in her hand to Charlotte. I brought this from my hometown. You can't buy it in China. Charlotte drank more than half of the bottle of sake in one gulp. The alcohol stimulated his throat and brought a hot feeling, which made him relax a little. Akiko, I'm here and I've drunk the wine. It's time for you to tell me your choice. Akiko Tsukino was silent for a moment before she said, My father gave me a second life, and my master gave me a third life. In my heart, my father and my master are actually the same role. They're both very important to me. Akiko, no matter what decision you make, I will understand you. Do you really want me to make a choice between my country, my people, my master, and you? Akiko Tsukino stared at Charlotte. Charlotte was slightly stunned. Akiko Tsukino put her country, her people, and her master on one side, and put him on the other side. This was like a balance with 3 big weights on the other side, and only 1 small weight on his side. Was Akiko Tsukino using this method to make her choice? If so, the choice she made was her country, her people, and her master. Is this your choice? But I understand your choice. Xiaolei squeezed out a smile with great difficulty. Akiko Tsukino glanced at Charlotte. You guessed it? Charlotte smiled bitterly. Your hint is very obvious. When are you going to leave? If it's possible, I would like to see you off. Even if they were going to break up, he wanted to leave a good impression. What would happen when they met on the battlefield in the future? He didn't want to think about it. Akiko Tsukino didn't answer Charlotte's question. She stood up from the grass and walked to the spring. Her steps were very elegant, and her snow-white calves and ankles looked particularly delicate in the grass, giving off a feeling that they could be broken by the wind. Akiko Tsukino stopped 2 steps away from the spring. She reached out and unbuttoned her short-sleeved shirt. The white short-sleeved shirt fell to the grass, revealing a flesh-colored bra. The next second, the flesh-colored bra also fell to the grass, revealing a smooth and delicate back. Akiko, don't do this. Charlotte felt very awkward. He could accept a friendly and peaceful breakup, but he was not willing to accept a breakup after the soul and body merged. As soon as he finished speaking, the short black skirt that Akiko Tsukino was wearing also fell to the grass. The next second, a white key piece of cloth also fell to the grass, revealing a snow-white fermented dough. Charlotte didn't know where to put his eyes. Akiko Tsukino walked to the spring. The clear spring slowly submerged her legs and then slowly submerged her buttocks. In the water, her legs and her buttocks were like white jade immersed in water. This was the most obscure temptation. The clear spring water was thinner than gauze. When the spring water submerged half of Akiko Tsukino's buttocks, she stopped and then bent down to wash the instep of her feet. Just as she bent down, Charlotte felt uncomfortable. He didn't know where to put his eyes. To look or not to look, this was a simple choice, but in this environment, at this time, he felt that it was more difficult to make a choice than Akiko Tsukino. Therefore, he felt that it was very inappropriate and embarrassing, but his left and right eyes were staring straight at her. God could testify that Akiko Tsukino's instep was cleaner than many people's faces, but she washed it for a full 2 minutes. Charlotte also watched her wash her feet for 2 minutes, although he didn't look at the pair of jade feet that were immersed in the water. Akiko Tsukino turned around and looked at Charlotte. Charlotte was even more unnatural. Akiko Tsukino said, Before you came, I thought a lot. I also received a call from my master, and he talked to me for a full 10 minutes. Yagyu Kenichi called you. Charlotte smiled bitterly. He must have told you the principles that he taught you when you were young, about the country, the people, and the spirit of the samurai. In the end, he asked you to kill me, right? Akiko Tsukino nodded. What did you say to him? Charlotte asked. Akiko Tsukino said, I told him that I would make the right choice. It was a vague answer. Charlotte couldn't guess what she was thinking. Both of them were silent, looking at each other. One had clothes, and the other didn't. After a full minute, Akiko Tsukino broke the silence between the two. I booked a ticket back to Japan. It's in my shirt pocket. Charlotte's left, I moved slightly, and he immediately saw the ticket lying in his pocket. Although he had already guessed her choice, he still felt an inexplicable pain in his heart when he saw the ticket. The members of the Zodiac Squad, no matter which one it was, were all his brothers and sisters. He treated the members of the Zodiac Squad like family. What's more, Akiko Tsukino was a woman who had a relationship with him. He naturally had emotional ties that were even more difficult to cut off. The plane leaves at 1 o'clock in the morning, Akiko Tsukino said. Charlotte's lips moved, and he forced a smile. Then, I'll take you there. Akiko Tsukino also smiled. But it's not with me. Charlotte was slightly stunned. What do you mean? You're asking me to choose. On one side is the country, the people, and the master who taught me ninjutsu. On the other side is you, the man I love. I don't know how to choose. Why don't you choose? Akiko Tsukino said. Me choose. Charlotte said. Of course I don't want you to leave. But if I force you to stay, you won't be happy. You will also face the samurai from Japan, and even your master. At that time, will you help me or stand by and watch? I don't want to make things difficult for you, and I don't want you to suffer because of this. Akiko Tsukino interrupted him. In my hometown, in a remote mountain village, if a man cares about his woman, he will help her wash the dust off her body and make her clean. If you care about me, you will choose me. If you don't care about me, she didn't continue, but her eyes had already fallen on the shirt that had fallen on the grass. That shirt contained the ticket back to Japan. Charlotte stood up and walked towards her. Behind him, his clothes, his pants, and his shoes also fell on the ground. Before he went into the water, the key piece of cloth on his body also flew into the air and floated several meters away before falling on the grass. Perhaps it was a coincidence, but his key piece of cloth happened to be on top of Akiko Tsukino's key piece of cloth. Akiko Tsukino actually wanted a statement from him, or just wanted to prove her position in his heart. She wanted so little. If he didn't give it to her, then why should she stay, abandon her country, and even her master to follow him? Charlotte rubbed her back with a smile on his face. In your hometown, does a man give a woman a bath like this? It's a man and a woman who love each other, a husband and wife. A smile also appeared on Akiko Tsukino's face. There are many hot springs in my hometown. As long as it's a good night, if you go out, you will definitely encounter that kind of thing. Charlotte continued to help her bathe. His movements were very gentle, and he didn't have any scruples. He dared to reach out to any place. Akiko Tsukino closed her eyes with an intoxicated and blissful expression. This kind of thing seemed to be really important to her. In Japan, there were always some inexplicable traditions. In Japan, if your master came to kill me, what would you do? Charlotte tentatively asked. He had to know the answer first. Akiko Tsukino opened her eyes, and a trace of coldness flashed in them. If he doesn't touch you, I won't touch him. If he touches you, I'll kill him. This was Akiko Tsukino's statement. The members of the Zodiac Squad, no matter which one of them, had tasted the fickleness of the world. Their childhood environment was no different from that of stray dogs. This also created their cold-blooded and ruthless personalities. They would repay the people they set their eyes on with their lives. Akiko Tsukino was adopted by Xia Changhe and sent to Kenichi Yagi's Kendo dojo to learn ninjutsu. The person she set her eyes on was Xia Changhe, Kenichi Yagi. Now, Charlotte had replaced her father, and he was the man she loved deeply. She was willing to give up everything for him, even if it was her life. Therefore, it seemed like a difficult choice to make. In her heart, the weight on the scale was Kenichi Yagi's side. However, the actual situation was that Charlotte was not the weight on the scale in her heart, but the tire of a forklift. Otherwise, why would she make such a trivial request? Thank you, Charlotte said. This thank you came from the bottom of his heart. Akiko Tsukino smiled sweetly. Take me with you when you go to Las Vegas. Charlotte nodded. Since it's a tradition in your hometown, I'll give you a good bath. You've already done a good job, Akiko Tsukino said. Charlotte suddenly squatted down and dived into the water. Akiko Tsukino's small mouth suddenly opened, and she couldn't close it. Chapter 1106. Yagyu Kenichi said faintly. How could Akiko Tsukino's conscience be awakened without sacrifice? She has followed that person for too long, and only the blood and lives of her compatriots can awaken her. That's why I asked her senior brother, Watanabe Haishu, to carry out the assassination of Charlotte. Watanabe Haishu took care of her when she was young, and their relationship is not bad. There's a person beside him. That is my disciple, Akiko Tsukino. She is the most outstanding samurai I have ever taught. After a pause, Yagyu Kenichi added, I have already called her. Akiko Tsukino's voice disappeared. My Hattori said, Master, your plan won't work. Your disciple has betrayed you, her motherland, and her people. Such a person must die. Huh? My Hattori looked a little confused. Master, what do you mean? The two mermaids looked up at the starry sky above their heads. The bright stars were twinkling, like a mysterious light signal, conveying some information to humans. Women were like wine. Some were good wine, some were poisonous wine, and some were private brews that would make people addicted. This kind of wine was extremely difficult to encounter, and it was actually a kind of luck to encounter it. He had always been a very lucky man in this regard. On one side was the national interest of Japan, the destiny of the nation, and the spirit of the samurai. On the other side was Yamate, Ichiku, and Hasakashi. At this moment, the master and my Hattori's entire outlook on life collapsed. Bastard. My Hattori slapped a family samurai in the face. She couldn't suppress her anger. You're all a bunch of trash. Yagyu Kenichi glanced at the clock on the wall and said, It's almost time. I think she will call soon. Bastard. Yagyu Kenichi suddenly threw his phone to the ground. We have to have a new plan, said my Hattori. A confident smile appeared on Yagyu Kenichi's face, as if he was in control of everything. The blood and life of 6 fellow warriors, including her senior brother Watanabe Haishu, as a Japanese samurai, she knows what kind of choice she should make. Yagyu-kin could no longer control his anger when he mentioned Charlotte. Akiko, kill him or you'll die. 10 minutes passed. The two of them waited for the call. Charlotte said, when Giovanna and the others are ready, we will set off. Also, Grandmaster. My Hattori couldn't hold it in anymore. She may still be hesitating. If you call her in person, you can help her make the right decision. Pa! The phone broke into dozens of pieces. What do you mean? Akiko Tsukino responded in this way. Not only was she telling him her choice, but it was also an insult to him. Yagyu Kenichi's face was extremely gloomy. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Akiko, what are you doing? What a surprise, what a surprise. It was Akiko Tsukino's voice. My Hattori suddenly thought of something. She lowered her voice to the lowest possible level. The person next to her must be Charlotte. My Hattori said respectfully, Grandmaster, our operation failed. The 6 men of sacrifice are all dead, but Charlotte and his child are still alive. Akiko Tsukino's voice came from the speaker. It was intermittent and not exaggerated at all. It made people feel that it was really cool. It was all the original dubbing effect. A smile appeared on my Hattori's face. I didn't expect Grandmaster to have such an arrangement, but why didn't you say so earlier? That way, the 6 warriors wouldn't have to be sacrificed. He was Akiko Tsukino's master, Yagyu Kenichi. No, he's very powerful. You don't have a high chance of winning if you fight him. It's very dangerous. I know him, so let me do it. If I kill him, it'll be a form of transcendence for me. Akiko Tsukino said. Get lost. My Hattori pointed at the door. My Hattori sneered, then increased the bait. What? You asked her to kill Charlotte. There was no expression on Yagyu Kenichi's face. He didn't say anything when he came to my Hattori's side. He was very cold. The family samurai who had been beaten said respectfully, "The operation actually went very well. Our people entered the hospital, but there was a problem when they faced Charlotte. I don't know the details, but this is the result." My Hattori tentatively said, "Grandmaster, can I listen?" 30 seconds later, my Hattori couldn't help but look at Yagi Kenichi. My Hattori said, "If it hadn't been for the last incident, I would still be alive. I would be a very good bait. However, I died in the hands of that gunman, so I've lost my value as bait. If I rashly give out the news that I'm still alive, I'm afraid it will cause Charlotte to be suspicious and vigilant." Women of the IGA sect always had a way to keep men. My Hattori reached out to Yagyu Kenichi, who held her hand. Yagyu Kenichi nodded. "I'm still waiting for her reply." Akiko Tsukino's voice came out of the phone, but the voice seemed to have the magic power to stop time. Yagyu Kenichi and my Hattori froze, petrified, and couldn't move. The new headquarters of the FA organization. My Hattori said, "It can be our bait, but it can also be the place where Charlotte ends." Yagyu Kenichi said, "China is Charlotte's territory. It's impossible to assassinate him in China. China's top officials have also realized the importance of Charlotte, so you can imagine how much they're protecting him. Also, 6 samurai are not enough." The restless spring finally calmed down, and the 2 mermaids finally separated. A few minutes ago, the 2 mermaids were making waves on the grass next to the spring, ruining a large area of grass. Yagyu Kenichi pressed the hands-free button. "When are we leaving for Las Vegas?" Akiko Tsukino asked again. "What do you mean?" My Hattori seemed to have noticed the change in Yagyu Kenichi's mind. She then said, "This time, we don't need to sacrifice our people at all. All of our people are precious. Since we need a bait, why not someone else? I'll kill her myself." Yagyu Kenichi's eyes were sharper than a knife and colder than ice. The moon in the sky hid behind the clouds, as if it was shy. It wasn't until the phone rang for 55 seconds that the call was connected. Charlotte said, "I hope you won't meet her on the battlefield. If you do, let me take care of her." Akiko Tsukino swam over to Charlotte and floated in the spring with him. She was a small white mermaid, while Charlotte was a large one. Her face was also full of happiness. There was only one Charlotte in the world, and he was the only one. She had met him. Only then did Yagyu Kenichi speak. "Don't be discouraged. They didn't die in vain. At least we have figured out one thing." Yagyu Kenichi smiled. "You're better than your father." After a moment of silence, Yagyu Kenichi said, "As I said, it's almost impossible to assassinate Charlotte in China. We need to lure him out, then hit him with the power to kill him. We need a bait to lure him out of China. What kind of bait do you think can lure him out?" Beep, beep, beep. As his body floated quietly in the clear spring, Charlotte's face was full of a satisfied smile. The women of the IGA sect were indeed outstanding in that regard. When she served him, he felt as if he was a fairy. No wonder she had the confidence to say that at the beginning, if he could resist it. Akiko Tsukino suddenly dived into the water. "Lockdown, lockdown, lockdown, lockdown." It was Yukino Akiko's voice on the phone. Her voice could even soften a steel bar. Can she be relied on? The family samurai who had been slapped bowed his head and put his palms in the middle of his trousers. He looked like he had been slapped, but had no complaints. Yagyu Kenichi was so angry that he could not speak. "Yes." The family samurai nodded, took 3 steps back, and turned to leave. A sneer appeared on Yagyu Kenichi's face. He knew what my Hattori was thinking. The opponent was Charlotte, and no one was willing to be the bait. Although my Hattori was the best bait, she was not willing to take the risk. My Hattori roared, 6 men of sacrifice. After planning for so long, they were all killed, but Charlotte and his child are still alive. "When you were talking to your master, I heard a woman's voice," Charlotte said. "It was Hattori's voice. She's still alive, and she's with your master." Charlotte could not help but smile bitterly. Sometimes the Japanese's thinking was really difficult to understand. At the same time, in the Eastern Hemisphere, in a small spring that did not even have a name. "Master, do you have any ideas?" The door of the lounge in the office opened, and a tall, thin, silver-haired old man walked out. He was wearing a traditional Japanese kimono, and there was an old samurai sword on his belt. What if he doesn't? Yagyu Kenichi said. Charlotte's feet suddenly became stiff as if he had cramp. Mai Hattori bowed her head to Yagyu Kenichi. Master, I admire your understanding of human nature. In this way, your disciple, Akiko Tsukino, will definitely make the right choice. My master must be furious with me, Akiko Tsukino said. Akiko, I'm going back, Charlotte said. My master is in Las Vegas too? If I really meet him, I will kill him myself. No one should interfere. Akiko Tsukino's eyes shone with excitement. The people of the FA organization, Yin FO and Augustman. Mai Hattori said, Charlotte has always wanted to eradicate the FA organization, and Yin FO and Augustman are the brains of the FA organization and the chief instructor. They are now working for the United States and are also involved in the Shepherd Plan. If we use them as bait, Charlotte will definitely take the bait. The men in the Eastern Hemisphere were having fun. The Japanese ninjas had unlocked all the postures, and the Japanese women were the best at serving men in the world. The women in the Western Hemisphere, on the other hand, were in a completely different mood. Master, when will she reply? Akiko Tsukino looked a little anxious. Las Vegas, the United States, the branch office building of the Hattori Family Vico Corporation. Ah, Shisenokyu Hachikasi M8. Akiko Tsukino's voice was full of mysterious passion, burning like a fire, as if she wanted to release all the things that had been suppressed in her body. Yagyu Kenichi said, I taught her the samurai spirit since she was a child. Bravery, loyalty, and sacrifice are the essence of the samurai spirit. She is a very traditional Japanese samurai, and I believe she will make the right choice. Yagyu Kenichi nodded, took out his cell phone, and dialed number. The samurai of Japan were willing to sacrifice their lives to defend the national interests, national destiny, and future of Japan, but the person who issued the call was so selfish and afraid of death. It was really a ridiculous irony. Chapter 1107. All right. Qianjun hung up the phone. The Mexican's preference for the organ was like the Chinese's preference for mahjong. Is he reliable? He's still so young, Charlotte said. Giovanna said, there are many stories about him. I'll just tell you one. He fell in love with his boss's woman, and that woman was pregnant with his child. Later, his adultery with that woman was discovered by his boss. In a fit of rage, his boss killed that woman and his unborn child. He was chased by that criminal organization, and his family was killed. He was also seriously injured. At that time, he came to our church, and we saved him. Now, he is a member of our rescue society. Charlotte added, when we left Mexico, let the brothers and sisters of the rescue society check the FA organization. They should have built a new headquarters. The town was called Blue Straw Hat. Although it was called a small town, it had a population of no more than 200 people. Most of the young people had smuggled to the United States to work, and the rest were mostly old people, children, and women. The town was very poor, and the buildings were low and dilapidated. The most gorgeous building in the town was a church, which had just been built. It was the Church of the Rescue Society. Part of the $100 million that Charlotte had given to Giovanna and the others had been used here. Sorry, I'll shut up. Arendaz smiled awkwardly, then turned his head and stopped bothering Charlotte and Giovanna. Giovanna nodded. I understand. What? In front of the brothers and sisters of the Rescue Society, Giovanna was not polite to Charlotte, and she even asked Charlotte to help her with her luggage. But when the people of the Rescue Society left, she seemed to have changed. Not only did she help Charlotte with his luggage, but after Charlotte entered the house, she even helped Charlotte make the bed, prepared slippers for Charlotte, and even helped Charlotte warm the quilt. Charlotte said, this number is too little. If something unexpected happens, with the identity and strength of our opponent, this number is simply not enough. Seeing such a scene, Charlotte felt a lot more at ease, because the personnel structure here looked very simple, and there was no need to worry about any organization spies lurking here. In addition, The residents of this small town were obviously indebted to the rescue society, so their relationship with the rescue society was definitely not bad. Giovanna responded softly. This team consisted of 2 men and 5 women, including Charlotte. None of them had their original faces. Instead, they were all wearing human skin masks. The passports and other relevant documents they used were also forged. These fake identities and documents were all made by Charlotte himself. They were so fake that they were real. Moreover, they could be checked by the relevant agencies without any problems. Giovanna said, "Don't look at him just because he's young. He used to be a gold medal killer for a drug trafficking organization in Mexico. He's very powerful." Walking out of the airport, Charlotte's group of 7 got on an ordinary minibus. There were a few Mexicans in the minibus. There were women buying daily necessities, construction workers at the construction site, and even the driver. They all looked like ordinary Mexicans. Giovanna whispered, "They don't know that you're here, but they know that I'm here. Don't worry, there won't be a problem." A few minutes later, the traffic monitoring interface of Las Vegas appeared on the monitor of the hacker's computer. Charlotte said, "I don't know what the situation was like when you shot her, but I can tell you for sure that she's still alive. My Hattori has taken over the Hattori family, and she has gathered many Japanese samurai. Remember, even if you meet her again, don't act rashly. I'll enter myself." "There's one thing I have to tell you," Charlotte said. "My Hattori is not dead. Take a nap first. I'll make the arrangements. You can leave tomorrow morning," Giovanna said. In this team, the 2 men were Charlotte and Angumi Khan, and the 5 women were 4 female knights and Akiko Tsukino. Erdamu and Yelena did not follow. Charlotte had asked Erdamu and Yelena to stay in China to protect his women and children. Although there were special forces guarding the Rema group, he felt more at ease with his own people. "What? That's impossible." Qianjun's voice was full of surprise. "I clearly shot her in the head. Unless the current medical technology can replace the head, it's impossible for her to come back to life. Why would a killer from a drug trafficking organization join our rescue organization?" Charlotte said with some vigilance. "Go and make the arrangements. I want to go to Las Vegas as soon as possible," Charlotte said after settling down. A Russian cargo plane landed on the runway of Tijuana Airport. When the airport staff unloaded the cargo, 2 men and 5 women also walked out of the cargo cabin. No one asked anything. In Mexico, people who were too curious died young. "About 30, Giovanna said. "Wow, you're the first Chinese I've seen who can speak Spanish so fluently." The Mexican young man looked very curious. "My brother, can you tell me what you do?" The minibus bypassed Tijuana and continued west at a speed of 50 miles per hour. Not far in that direction was the city of San Diego in the United States, a city with the most complex ethnic population, full of sex, violence, and drugs. Charlotte said, "Then my current identity is your subordinate or follower. You don't have to be too polite to me. In front of them, you can even ask me to do some things for you that subordinates and followers would do." "Bishop, when can we go on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land?" the Mexican young man asked, his eyes full of desire. A priest arranged a room for them. "So that's how it is." Charlotte thought for a moment. "How many armed men do we have in Mexico?" Charlotte could not help but look at Giovanna, feeling a little absurd. "Bishop, the Holy Land? They actually call themselves bishops and call the Holy Thunder Church next to the Rema group the Holy Land. In the Salvation Society's power structure, I should be the most powerful god, and they are the 4 archbishops. What talents! If the 4 of them were not knights, but MLM personnel, they would also have a very promising future." "Translate," Charlotte said. "Are we going to fight in Mexico?" Giovanna asked. In fact, there was no need for Giovanna to explain. Charlotte could also see the identity of these people, because the Mexicans in the bus were all armed and had tattoos related to their religious beliefs. The Mexican driver even had a tattoo of the Chinese character Holy Thunder. They obviously worshipped him as a god. 3 days later, in the Mexican border city of Tijuana, as soon as they got on the bus, Giovanna said to Charlotte, "They are all brothers and sisters of the Salvation Society, and they're all Mexicans born and raised in Tijuana. They're very familiar with the environment here. Charlotte said, "Don't forget that the FA organization's base camp is in Mexico. If they find out we are in Mexico, there will be a big battle. So, keep a low profile and try not to reveal your identity. There are so many members of the Salvation Society, and you can't know everyone. Do you understand what I mean?" Behind the church, there were also buildings, including a clinic, a library, and a chess and card room. There were doctors treating the elderly in the clinic, a group of children reading in the library, and old people playing billiards and bridge in the chess and card room. It was very lively. The rest were houses, almost all of which had their doors closed, and no one could see who lived inside. "Hey, my brother, are you from China? Can you understand Spanish?" When the song subsided, a dark-skinned young Mexican man with a head like a potato asked Charlotte. The minibus drove directly to the back of the church. The minibus started up and headed west of Tijuana. Before the bus went far, a Mexican woman sitting in the bus took out an accordion and sang while playing the accordion. Soon, her music infected all the Mexicans in the bus, and exotic songs echoed in the bus. In fact, even if Giovanna sat 20 meters away and talked to Charlotte in this voice, Charlotte could still hear her. "When are you going to come to Las Vegas?" "Siamu and I are ready," Qianjun said. After half an hour's drive, Tijuana, a famous tourist destination in Mexico, came into Charlotte's sight. The last time he passed by this city, he only stopped for a short time. This time was no exception. In the itinerary arranged by Giovanna, he would not even enter Tijuana. Giovanna nodded. Giovanna just smiled, but she felt that Charlotte was extremely meticulous. After another hour or so, the minibus came to a small town in the desert. After ending the call with Qianjun, Charlotte took out his hacker's computer from his suitcase, then connected to the mobile network and began to work. He could go to Las Vegas if he wanted to, but he did not need to know the situation there before he went. Otherwise, he was likely to fall into a trap. The CIA, the Pentagon, the FA organization, the Japanese Secret Service, and the Hattori family. He had to be careful when he thought about these opponents. Charlotte nodded. "Yes, I am from China. I have learned Spanish, so I can understand." Giovanna said, "Hernandez, there will be a chance, but can you shut your mouth for now?" "No, you don't need to do anything. I will come and meet you after I figure out the situation." Also, facing these believers, Charlotte felt strange. "Boss, have you arrived in Mexico?" It was Qianjun's voice. Giovanna leaned her head slightly towards Charlotte's ear and whispered, "He is the captain of the armed forces in Tijuana and will be the leader of the armed forces in Mexico in the future. At present, we have only developed the Tijuana area in Mexico, but we will soon expand to other areas." "Huh, so that's how it is." The Mexican young man looked at Giovanna, sitting next to Charlotte, and said respectfully, "Bishop, is this brother from the Holy Land?" "Yes," Charlotte said. After Giovanna left, Charlotte took out the satellite phone and dialed number. "It's me." In fact, the conversation between Charlotte and Giovanna could be heard by several Mexicans in the car, but Charlotte and Giovanna spoke in Chinese, so even if they heard it, they did not know what Charlotte and Giovanna were talking about. But this was just an illusion. "Do they know I'm here?" When Charlotte sat in his seat, he whispered to Giovanna, sitting next to him, "You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."